Chapter 296. I ask Bodhisattva why he sits upside down, sign that all living beings don't want to turn back. Benefactor Chun, wake up! Along with this Buddhist chant, a string of prayer beads flew out from behind me and Han Wen'an, heading straight for Chun Yangting. I lifted my head and saw that the string of prayer beads was extremely thick, and each of them looked like a small volleyball. They whistled as they reached Chun Yangting's head, then heavily smashed down. The prayer beads were extremely fast, and Chun Yangting's Taoist energy was used to activate the talisman. As such, he didn't have time to react, and the prayer beads, which were as tall as a man, ruthlessly hit his head. The strange thing was that after the prayer beads hit Chun Yangting's head, a loud sound of metal hitting stone resounded. It shook people's eardrums, causing them to feel a dull pain. It was as if a person was walking on the side of the road, and an electric pole suddenly snapped and smashed down. The person couldn't avoid it, and the person next to him would shiver in fear. As I stood there, my body shivered. How could Chun Yangting still be alive? This monk Miao Ju usually looked like a quiet and indifferent person. Who knew that he would be so ruthless at such a crucial moment? I didn't have time to think about it. After the beads hit the monk, they flew back and shrunk. When they reached Miao Ju, the beads had shrunk to the size of a cherry. They landed on his palms, which were clasped together in front of him. Miao Ju wore a benevolent smile on his face. He separated his hands and slowly hung the prayer beads around his neck. Strangely enough, Chun Yangting didn't fall down immediately after receiving the heavy blow on his head. Instead, he stood there in a daze and stopped all his movements. Even the talisman that was half activated in the air slowly retracted its black smoke and fell to the ground. As the talisman fell to the ground, Chun Yangting also closed his eyes and fell heavily to the ground. The power of the Buddhist beads just now was definitely not an illusion of mine. After Chun Yangting fell to the ground, Han Wen'an immediately put away her artifact and ran towards him. She reached out and touched Chun Yangting's face. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. She turned around and said to someone, "He fainted. Master Miao Ju, what happened to him just now?" Monk Miao Ju clasped his palms together. He still had the same dull look as before as he said lightly, "External devils have invaded. This poor monk has already awakened him." In the words of us feng shui masters, the invasion of external demons he mentioned is, in fact, being possessed. Han Wen'an and I naturally understood. The reason why Han Wen'an asked this question was because he didn't dare to believe it. Yeah, Chun Yangting had glorious consciousness late-stage cultivation. How could he possibly be bewitched? What kind of evil thing could make a grand cultivator who was close to the level of a Taoist master fall for it? Han Wen'an's complexion turned extremely ugly. After a long moment of silence, he reached out to grab Chun Yangting and carried him on his back. He only said one word in a muffled voice, "Go." I shouldered the terracotta warriors and followed Monk Miao Ju. I didn't even bother to check the other terracotta warriors and left as fast as I could. The rest of the journey was very smooth. As we were running at full speed, it didn't take us more than 10 minutes to reach the entrance of the cave. I purposely used the searchlight to look at the entrance of the cave. It was pitch black without any light. I felt strange. Before we entered the cave, we had informed the people above to bring some lighting equipment down and wait for us in the huge cave outside. If they came down, there should be light coming from the entrance. Why didn't they come down? Or did something happen to them after they came down? As we were hurrying, we didn't have time to think as we reached the entrance of the cave. After we got out of the cave, the originally pitch-black surroundings suddenly became extremely bright. It was as if we had gone from the pitch-black night of the first day of the month to the scorching sun at noon. The strong light made my eyes shrink. I had to squint to see the situation in front of me clearly. 3 giant searchlights were placed around the cave, which was several hundred meters in diameter. They illuminated the cave as if it was daytime. More than 10 armed policemen, Deputy Chief Zhang, Mu Exin, Ling Diyu, and the others were guarding the entrance of the cave. When they saw us, they rushed forward and surrounded us. The strangest thing was that Professor Liang, who we had been searching for, was also standing in the crowd. His face was calm, and he didn't have a single wound on his body. Deputy Chief Zhang stood in front of the crowd. He saw the wound on Han Wennan's chest and hurriedly asked, "Mr. Han, is there any danger in there? What happened to Chen Daozhang?" It was indeed dangerous inside. Han Wennan put Chen Yangting down and briefly told them what she had seen and heard inside. Several armed policemen came up and divided into two groups. One group carried Chen Yangting to the side, and the other group walked to Han Wennan and treated their wounds. I put down the terracotta in my hand and asked Deputy Chief Zhang, "Why is Professor Liang here? How did you find him?" Deputy Chief Zhang's tense face relaxed when he saw that nothing serious had happened. He smiled and told me, "As soon as they received our notice, they brought the searchlights down here. After illuminating the cave, they found Professor Liang leaning against the wall not far from the cave we had entered. He was unconscious, but his body was fine. After we woke him up, we wanted to take him to the hospital first. However, he insisted on staying here and waiting for us to come out." I looked at Professor Liang strangely, my heart full of doubts. Professor Liang had fainted not far from us. We were cultivators at the glorious memory realm, so we couldn't say that we could see every living creature within a radius of dozens of meters. However, Professor Liang was a living person. Even if we couldn't see him, we should be able to sense him. How could we have missed him? I purposely asked where Professor Liang had fainted. He was around 10 meters away from the cave we had entered. When we entered the cave, we had shown the searchlights around. How come we didn't see him? I was skeptical, but I didn't ask further. There were many strange things in this cave. It was just like how I couldn't see the light outside when I was standing in the cave. It wasn't strange that we couldn't sense Professor Liang's aura while he was locked in a corner. At this moment, Professor Liang was studying the terracotta I had memorized. He reached out his hand to pinch it, but I didn't know if he had found anything. After Deputy Chief Zhang finished talking with me, he asked everyone to retreat. "Someone is injured, and it's not convenient to stay here. We should go back and discuss the situation. Then, we will decide what to do." No one had any objections. We prepared to leave. However, before we left, Deputy Chief Zhang didn't ask anyone to take the searchlights away. Instead, he asked some armed policemen to guard the place. Han Wennan and I exchanged looks. "Deputy Chief Zhang, we can leave the searchlights behind, but we shouldn't leave the people behind. It's better if we go back together." After experiencing Chen Yangting's matter, Han Wennan and I understood how dangerous this cave was. At this moment, they were very cautious. Deputy Chief Zhang gave us face. He waved his hand and changed his order. Then, he brought everyone back to the cave. A soft ladder had been set up at the entrance of the cave. Miao Ju and I carried Chen Yangting and the terracotta statue on our backs. We took the lead and climbed up the ladder. I had been carrying the terracotta statue all the way here. Along the way, I had been quietly studying the aura inside the statue. However, I couldn't figure out where this aura came from. At first, I thought that the terracotta statue was hiding something similar to the ink beads Xiao Jin had given me. However, after sensing it for a long time, I found that the aura inside the terracotta statue was all over the place. There wasn't a single spot where the aura was especially thick. However, it didn't seem like it was filled with ink beads, which made the aura inside the terracotta statue wasn't that strong. Besides that, I also found something strange. The soft tube under the terracotta statue's feet. When it was connected to the mountain wall, I didn't feel it. However, after I cut it off and carried it on my back, I felt a drop of liquid oozing out of the tube. That drop of liquid also had an aura. However, it wasn't shaman aura. It was similar to the aura of the Tao. I didn't know what to make of this discovery. After everyone had boarded the terracotta statue, Deputy Chief Zhang asked 2 armed policemen to stay behind. The others packed their things and returned to the police station. On the way back, Professor Liang didn't hesitate to take the terracotta statue. He started to study it in the car. Although I wanted to take the terracotta statue with me, Professor Liang was the expert here. It wasn't my turn to study the terracotta statue. Begrudgingly, I had to give up on this thought. Anyway, I could find an excuse to go to the police station later. I wasn't worried. After we returned to the police station, due to Han Wennan's and the others' injuries, we didn't discuss further. After I returned to the Feng Shui metaphysics shop, I accidentally took out the Azure Hillock sword to check. There was a wet spot on the Azure Hillock sword. A milky white liquid had stained the sword and didn't disperse. I thought for a while and was elated. In the cave, the hose had been cut by this sword. The liquid on the blade was definitely the liquid from the hose. Since I didn't want Han Wennan and the others to suspect me, I didn't turn around to check. I still felt regretful. But now, the liquid on the blade was more than enough for me to study. I carefully picked up a piece of glass and scraped the liquid off the sword. After the liquid condensed on the glass, it formed a big drop. After observing for a long time, I didn't make much progress. I could only sense an aura similar to Tao energy. I pondered. Since the liquid's aura was similar to Tao energy, it shouldn't be dangerous. I reached out and picked up the liquid on my index finger. As soon as I touched the liquid, I felt a strong sense of familiarity. The aura of this liquid was the true dragon saliva that had saved me once. Although its aura wasn't as thick as the true dragon saliva, it was exactly the same. I didn't need to tell you how precious the true dragon saliva was. Lu Xening was at the Heavenly Master Realm, but he had destroyed my meridians and Tao energy. However, a drop of true dragon saliva had helped me recover. What a precious treasure it was. Moreover, Mr. Li had told me that the true dragon saliva was the essence of the entire true dragon vein. Chapter 297. I looked at the drop of liquid in my hand and thought about the number of terracotta warriors in the cave. I was really excited, but after my excitement subsided, I immediately thought of something. When Han Wennan had interrupted me in the cave, it was obvious that he wanted to swallow the true dragon vein. Although he was also a member of the Metaphysics Society, he represented the Han family in Qinling Mountains. That was why he wouldn't tell the Metaphysics Society, but the Han family. Since I had a good impression of Han Wennan, and the true dragon vein wasn't attractive to me, I was happy to do him a favor. However, it was possible that the Han family would send a celestial master here. When I told him about the true dragon vein in the Fire God Temple, Grandpa Li had gone there personally. With the true dragon vein's value, it wasn't strange for the Han family's celestial master to come here personally. The problem was that my witchcraft energy couldn't hide from the celestial master. I didn't dare to meet any celestial master. At that time, I wouldn't be able to protect myself, let alone go to the cave to get the mysterious liquid. What should I do? I couldn't help but smile wryly. While I was in the cave, I didn't think much about it. Now that I thought about it, I had dug a hole to bury myself. If I had known this earlier, I would have thought of a way to confuse Han Wennan in the cave so that he wouldn't know that it was the true dragon vein. After thinking for a long time, I couldn't find a solution to this problem. The only thing I could do now was to persuade Han Wennan and the others to go down there one more time before the heavenly master of the Han family arrived. I would use this chance to get more of this mysterious liquid. Of course, there was another risky solution. I would have to discuss with Han Wennan. I promised that I wouldn't divulge the true dragon vein's information to him. However, if the Han family celestial master came, it would be like asking a tiger for its skin. There was a high chance that the tiger would eat me. The more I thought about it, the more annoyed I became. I decided to take one step at a time. I would find a chance to go down there and get enough liquid. If I couldn't, I would consider whether I should take the risk or not. After thinking it through, I found a glass bottle and prepared to put the drop of liquid inside. While I was putting it in, I suddenly remembered the snake spirit. During this period of time, this fellow has been living in my body, using my blood to nourish itself and prepare to transform into a dragon. Back then, he said that to transform into a dragon, he needed the blood of a true dragon, which was the blood of someone like me who had swallowed the saliva of the true dragon. Logically speaking, he needed my blood to obtain the power of the saliva of the true dragon. Then, would this liquid that contained the power of the saliva of the true dragon be useful to him? With this thought, I hurried to take off my clothes and summon the spirit snake. This fellow had a lazy temperament, but he was very diligent in his dragon transformation cultivation. Ever since he had possessed my body, he had been desperately absorbing the power in my blood every day. He was very diligent. Now that I had called him out, he had an unwilling expression on his face. He impatiently asked, "Why did you call me Grandpa Snake Immortal?" "Grandpa Snake Immortal is busy. I don't have time to play with a little kid like you." Then he circled around in front of me, ready to go back. I was instantly annoyed. This fellow was the type that would tear the roof tiles if he wasn't beaten for 3 days. It was fortunate that Tong Tong hadn't woken up yet. Otherwise, I might have gotten Tong Tong to teach him a lesson. I didn't stop him, but raised the liquid in my hand and asked him, "Do you want the saliva of the true dragon?" The spirit snake, who had floated behind me, was stunned. Then he returned in front of me and stared at the drop of liquid with his large eyes. He asked with a trembling voice, "What did you say?" "Saliva of the true dragon. Is that the thing in your hand?" It looks like it. It has the aura of a true dragon. But it's not right. It doesn't look like it." After talking to himself for a long time, this fellow raised his head and looked at me. He bashfully rubbed against my body and didn't look as unwilling as before. He asked me passionately, Brother Zhou Yi, is this really the saliva of the true dragon? Did you specially prepare for me?" I instantly felt a chill down my spine. I took 2 steps back and maintained a distance from him. Then I explained, "This is considered a very low concentration saliva of the true dragon. It has been diluted many times. See if it's helpful for your dragon transformation." Just as I said that, the 2 illusory eyes of the spirit snake shone brightly. He was so happy that his entire body was trembling. "Are you sure it's diluted saliva of the true dragon?" "Of course, it's definitely helpful. The reason why Grandpa Snake Immortal used a true dragon's blood is because the power of the true dragon's saliva is too strong. Grandpa Snake Immortal's body is illusory and can't handle it. This diluted true dragon saliva is just right. It's even more useful than the true dragon's blood." "You little..." "No, Brother Zhou Yi, you're such a good person. Quickly give it to me." Of course, I knew how precious the true dragon's saliva was. However, I wasn't too sure about its effects other than to repair meridians. Moreover, this was just diluted true dragon saliva, so I didn't have any use for it. So I casually threw it to him. The spirit snake carefully took it and brought it to his mouth. Then he opened his mouth and swallowed it. After swallowing it, he floated there without moving. After a long time, his body suddenly shivered. He smacked his lips a few times, and his face was filled with pleasure. He moved closer to me and rubbed against me a few times like a puppy. Then he smiled apologetically and asked, "Brother Zhou Yi, is there more?" I still want more." I kicked him to the side and said angrily, "Don't be so cheap. Speak properly." The spirit snake chuckled and wasn't annoyed. He blinked his big eyes at me. I spread my hands at him. "I only have this drop on me. It's gone." Puffed. Instantly, the spirit snake's attitude took a 180-degree turn. He swung his tail and returned to my back. He muttered angrily, "What can 1 drop do? You need at least 100 drops to be useful. You only got 1 drop and made me, the spirit snake grandpa, unable to cultivate for half a day. You little kid, you're so insensible." I stood there and didn't say anything. After the spirit snake's entire body lay on my back, he didn't enter. Instead, he waited for a while and moved his huge head next to my ear. He asked again, "Is there really no more? Don't lie to me." I grinned. There really isn't any more. Only then did the spirit snake completely give up. He let out another long sigh and didn't hesitate anymore. He plunged his head into my back. After he entered, I continued, "I don't have any more on me, but I know a place with so much true dragon saliva that you won't be able to finish it." As I expected, even though this fellow had burrowed into my body, his ears were still upright. With a rub, he flew out again. He giggled foolishly, his face filled with a fawning smile. "Snake Celestial. Little snake, I knew it. Big Brother Zhou Yi, you're so amazing. How could you only get 1 drop? Where's the place you were talking about? Hurry up and bring me there to take a look. When I successfully transform into a dragon, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. If you tell me to go east, I'll never go west. If you tell me to hit a dog, I'll never catch a chicken." This fellow was just running his mouth. I didn't feel anything at all. I waved my hand at him impatiently. All right. Go back and rest. When I go there again, I'll call you out. All right. I'll listen to your arrangements. The spirit snake smiled at me in a flattering manner. Then he returned to my back. However, before he entered, he carefully reminded me in my ear, Brother Joey, don't forget when the time comes. How about on going too? Let's go to the place you mentioned now. I didn't even turn my head. I only sent him one word, scram. All right, I'll scram now. The spirit snake muttered, and his huge figure disappeared on my back. After the spirit snake returned, I went to sleep. The night passed without a word. The next morning, I hurried to the Municipal Public Security Bureau. I left in a hurry yesterday. Today, I had to see if I could persuade them to go with me. When I arrived at the entrance of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, before I could enter, a figure suddenly appeared beside me. I looked up and saw that it was Han Wen-an. Seeing him, the corners of my mouth rose. It was just as I had thought. This fellow wanted to talk to me about the true dragon vein. I asked with a smile, even though I already knew the answer. Brother Han, you're so early. What's the matter? He wasn't someone who was used to feigning civility with others. He went straight to the point. Yesterday, in the cave, you should have sent something ahead, right? I nodded. The true dragon vein. Brother Han interrupted me yesterday. I don't know if you have anything to say. Han went and nodded. A straightforward person doesn't beat around the bush. Currently, only the two of us know about the true dragon vein. My Han family has always wanted to find a true dragon vein. I wonder if Taoist Zhang is willing to give it to my Han family? Of course, I won't let you suffer any losses. If you have any conditions, just tell me. As long as it's within my capabilities, everything can be discussed. He sounded very sincere. I really wanted to tell him my true identity so that the Han family's celestial masters could protect me. However, when I recalled the 10 celestial masters that had besieged me, I gave up on that thought. After thinking for a while, I said, Brother Han, you're exaggerating. Even though I'm a successor of the Ghost Valley, my family has declined. I'm all alone now, so it's impossible for me to take something like the true dragon vein. This true dragon vein will naturally belong to your Han family. As for the conditions, I haven't thought about it yet. This true dragon vein will naturally belong to your Han family. As for the conditions, I haven't thought about it yet. Why don't we talk about it later? After getting my promise, Han Wen-an heaved a sigh of relief. The stern expression on his face softened. He nodded. All right, then it's a deal. Taoist Zhang, you can come and find me whenever you've thought of the conditions. After agreeing, we went to the office that the Municipal Public Security Bureau had prepared for us. Professor Liang had experienced a lot of danger yesterday, but he didn't seem to be affected. Early in the morning, he was working in the office with his 2 students. The 3 of them were holding thick books and were constantly flipping through them. I didn't know what they were looking for. Chen Yangting and Miao Zhu hadn't arrived yet. I asked Han Wen-an. Chen Yangting woke up yesterday. However, he's not feeling well, so he's resting in his residence. Miao Zhu is taking care of him. I don't think he'll come over for a while. I nodded and was about to suggest that we go to that cave again. However, before I could say anything, Professor Liang stood up and said, Let's pack our things. We're going there now. Ling Diu and Mu Xian immediately put the books in their backpacks and stood up. Han Wen-an frowned and asked, Where are we going? Professor Liang glanced at him. Of course, we're going to the cave. I've already found some information. Today, I'll go with you to that cave to see. Han Wen-an stood still. He hesitated for a while before shaking his head. That cave is very dangerous. Master Miao Zhu and Chun Daozhong aren't here today. We should rest for a day and wait for Chun Daozhong to recover. We'll decide what to do tomorrow. Chapter 298. If the Heavenly Master of the Han family came, I would have to stay as far away from him as possible. I wouldn't have a share of that liquid. Even if I was brave enough to avoid the Heavenly Master of the Han family and make a deal with Han Wen-an, the true dragon saliva was too precious. Once I told them about it, the Han family wouldn't be easy to deal with. Even if Han Wen-an kept his promise, I wasn't sure how much he would give me. I immediately said, Big Brother Han. Even if Chun Daozhong and Miaoju aren't here, the two of us should be enough. As long as we're careful, we shouldn't be in too much danger. I purposely emphasized the words Chun Daozhong and Miaoju aren't here to remind Han Wen'an that since they weren't here, we wouldn't expose the true dragon's vein if we went there. There was nothing to worry about. Han Wen'an hesitated after listening to me. Professor Liang insisted on going, so Han Wen'an reluctantly nodded in agreement. We packed our things and set out together. When we arrived at the door, we saw Qin Yangting and Miao Jue walking toward us. Seeing that we were about to go out, Miao Ju wore an indifferent expression and didn't say anything. Qin Yangting, on the other hand, ran over excitedly and said, "I knew you would go there today. Fortunately, I didn't come late. Let's go. Today, I must find out what exactly made me fall into that trap yesterday." He still looked tired, but his spirit was good. His body had almost recovered. Han Wen'an gawked and dropped his jaw. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to stop this operation. However, he had just agreed. If he objected now, wouldn't it mean that he was guilty? Feeling helpless, he could only persuade Qin Yangting. "You're still injured, so you should be careful. It'll be the same after you recover." Qin Yangting didn't listen to him and insisted on going. The two couldn't come to an agreement. In the end, Professor Liang lost his temper and scolded Han Wen'an. "You're a man, so why are you so stubborn? If you want to go, just go. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Han Wen'an was rebuked, and he wasn't a quick-witted person, so he stammered and couldn't say anything. He could only hang his head dejectedly and no longer speak, following the crowd on their journey. It didn't matter to me whether Chun Yangting and Miao Jue found the true dragon vein or not. However, I was worried that Han Wen'an would think of some other method to stop us. That's why I purposely lagged behind them. After Chun Yangting and Miao Jue were far away, I whispered to Han Wen'an, since he has already informed his family. Even if we go to the cave today, as long as we stall for time, the probability of Chun Yangting and Miao Jue finding the true dragon vein isn't high. Tomorrow, when the people of his family arrive and take control of the situation, it doesn't matter if Chun Yangting and Miao Jue found the true dragon vein or not. Han Wen'an stayed silent for a while. She probably felt that what I said was reasonable, so she nodded her head in agreement. On the way to the orchard, I purposely sat in the same car as Professor Liang. I found a chance to ask him about the terracotta statue from yesterday. "Did you find anything inside it?" Professor Liang glanced at me and said, "What could be inside a terracotta statue? Of course, it's a corpse. Last night, I opened the terracotta statue. It's an ancient corpse that has decayed for several thousand years." I was bewildered. When I was in Yufuda's attic in the cellar, Professor Liang had told me about the Shang dynasty's sacrificial culture. That was why when I saw the terracotta statue, my first thought was that it was a corpse. However, when I sensed the fluctuation of shaman energy, I changed my mind. Up until now, besides the shaman energy I had cultivated, I had only seen little gold shaman energy. That was why I didn't think that other people would have shaman energy. I thought that the terracotta statue contained something similar to ink beads. After listening to Professor Liang, I finally understood. No wonder I had sensed that the shaman energy inside the terracotta statue was evenly distributed. It was a corpse. I suddenly remembered the time when I was in the back mountain of the Metaphysics Society. When the 10 heavenly masters attacked me, they had mentioned the shaman tribe. The corpses that were sealed in the terracotta figurines must be the shaman tribe that the heavenly masters had mentioned. I suddenly had a strange feeling. The heavenly masters had said that I was a remnant of the shaman tribe. So, were the corpses in the cave my ancestors? My ancestors weren't the right word. They should be my ancestors. Perhaps it was because I was used to living alone, but I couldn't help but sigh. I sat there and kept silent. Soon, we reached the cellar in the orchard. After he got out of the car, Professor Liang acted quickly. He directed us to enter the cellar. We followed the rope ladder and entered the cave. When we left yesterday, the armed policemen on duty were still there. We didn't encounter any danger that night. Deputy Chief Zhang asked the others to change shifts. The 2 armed policemen chatted and laughed as they left. Then, Professor Liang urged us to enter the cave. Before entering, Deputy Chief Zhang arranged for some armed policemen to follow us. He said that they would protect us. From yesterday's situation, if we encountered any danger, even if they had guns, they would only be a burden. Chen Yangting, and the others all refused. However, Professor Liang said that they could help if they enter the cave. He insisted on taking them with him. No matter what, they weren't members of the Metaphysics Society. There was a big generation gap between them. Moreover, Professor Liang was a stubborn old man. In the end, we had no choice but to agree. We brought 6 armed policemen and around 10 people with us to enter the cave for the second time. Professor Liang stopped at the entrance of the cave. He pointed at the huge symbol on the wall and said, "This symbol is similar to the word king in the oracle bone inscriptions. It should be the passage that only the royal family of the Shang dynasty could use. The smaller caves on the side are probably used by the commoners and slaves." While he was talking, the 2 students behind her were taking notes. The others weren't interested in these things, so no one answered him. After they took a picture and copied the symbol, we finally entered the cave. After entering the cave, I turned around to check. It was the same as yesterday. As long as we entered the cave, we couldn't see the light outside. It was strange, and I was sure that there was a reason behind it. However, no one paid attention to it. Professor Liang walked in the front. After observing the surroundings, he walked to the first terracotta statue. He asked us about the situation after we dug out yesterday. I heard that there was a tube connected to the statue. Moreover, after the tube was cut, it returned to the statue as if it was a living creature. His interest was piqued. He asked us to dig this terracotta statue out. He said that he wanted to see what was going on with his own eyes. The corners of my mouth curled into a smile when he mentioned the terracotta statue. Today, I had come here for the liquid inside the tube. If we wanted to get that liquid, we had to dig the terracotta statue out. Before we came here, I had told the spirit serpent that I wouldn't take the liquid out. I would find a chance to cut the tube and let the serpent go to the terracotta statue. After it swallowed the liquid, it would quickly return to my body. That way, it wouldn't attract attention. The spirit serpent had an ethereal body, and it could change its size. As long as it shrank, I would use my shaman energy to cover it. Then, Han Wenan and Chen Yangting wouldn't be able to see it. It was very safe, and I didn't need to worry about being exposed. I was happy, but Chen Yangting and Han Wenan's faces turned solemn. Yesterday, Chen Yangting had encountered some kind of evil spirit. He had been affected when he was digging the terracotta statue. If he dug the terracotta statue again today, the same thing would happen again. The 2 of them expressed their worries. Although Professor Liang and the others didn't know what was going on, they didn't force them since they sounded serious. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, I hurried to persuade them. What happened yesterday could be a coincidence. Even if it wasn't, we don't need to worry. We're right next to the cave, and Master Miaojue is here. If the same thing happens again, we can easily solve it. Moreover, we can also study how it happened. Han Wenan and Chen Yangting looked at me at the same time and nodded in agreement with my opinion. It wasn't hard to guess what they were thinking. Han Wenan wanted to buy time by digging the terracotta statue, and Chen Yangting simply wanted to know what had happened yesterday. As for Master Miaojue, he still looked calm and composed. It seemed he didn't care about anything. After we came to a conclusion, the armed police officers held the plastic bombs in their hands and walked toward the statue. The people that Deputy Chief Zhang had sent were the elites of the armed police. Directional explosions weren't a problem. Soon, they stuck the small plastic bombs in different places around the terracotta statue. After they were detonated, a muffled explosion resounded. Crushed stones flew everywhere, creating a big hole. However, the terracotta statue in the middle wasn't damaged at all. The explosive effect wasn't worse than the talismans Chen Yangting had used yesterday. After an armed policeman pulled the terracotta figure out, everyone stared at it closely, especially Chen Yangting. His chi of the way gushed out from his body and enveloped the terracotta figure. Unfortunately, even after the terracotta figure was completely pulled out, he did not find anything wrong even after a long time had passed. His face was full of doubt. What was even more strange was that there was no soft tube connected to the terracotta statue's feet. I looked at it for a long time, feeling discouraged. Then, I moved closer to take a look. There was a hole as big as a wrist underneath the terracotta statue. It seemed there used to be a soft tube connected to it, but I didn't know why it had disappeared. I pondered for a while. This terracotta statue was different from the one we had found yesterday. One had shaman energy, while the other didn't. Did that soft tube absorb the shaman energy from the corpse inside the terracotta statue? After that, the tube disappeared. Professor Liang studied the statue for a while. Then, he stood up and looked pensive. We need to move forward to check the other terracotta statues. Han Wennan stood up. Yesterday, after Chun Yangting dug out the terracotta statues, an accident happened around half an hour later. He asked us to wait for another half an hour to check the situation. Apparently, he was stalling for time. However, his words made sense, and no one dared to refute him. We stopped and rested for half an hour. Half an hour later, everything was still normal. Then, we resumed our journey. The walls of the cave and the stone road under our feet were smooth. Except for the terracotta statues on both sides, there was nothing else. Professor Liang had been observing the terracotta statues along the way. I thought that he would dig them up again to check the situation. If that happened, it would be a waste of time. I didn't expect that Professor Liang didn't want to dig up more terracotta statues. We continued to walk until we reached the place where we had dug out the terracotta statue yesterday. Professor Liang suddenly pointed at a spot a few meters ahead of us. He asked the armed police officers to dig up the terracotta statue. I focused my eyes and my face changed. I quietly turned around and looked at Professor Liang. Chapter 299. I didn't know if it was a coincidence or not, but when I turned to look at Professor Liang, he also turned to look at me. Our eyes met. When our eyes met, I suddenly had a strange feeling. I was secretly observing him to find out his secret. However, from his eyes, I felt as if my secret had been seen through. I felt a little guilty and quickly moved my eyes away. At this moment, the armed policemen had placed the directional bombs around the terracotta statue. Before they were about to detonate, Han Wennan called them and reminded them to step back so that they could control it from a distance. Compared to Professor Liang, I knew him better. Of course, he didn't know that there was something strange about the terracotta statue. It was just that this place was deep inside the cave, and he was always cautious. Different from his cautiousness, the armed policemen were ignorant and fearless. They didn't look scared at all. However, because of Han Wennan's identity, they reluctantly took a few steps back and pressed the button to detonate the bomb. Directional explosions were different from ordinary explosions. The power of the explosives was concentrated on the wall of the mountain, which created a small sound. After a muffled explosion, the mountain wall shattered and a big hole was created around the terracotta statue. After experiencing Chun Yangting's encounter with an evil spirit yesterday, Han Wennan, I, and the others' nerves were completely tense at this moment. We gathered all our Dao Qi and stared at the big hole around the terracotta figurines with extreme vigilance. After waiting for half a minute, the terracotta statue and the big hole around it didn't show any abnormalities. Han Wennan and I exchanged looks. We stopped the armed policeman who wanted to check the situation. When we were about to go there, Chun Yangting suddenly pulled us back. He shook his head and said, "You two stay back and be on guard. I'm going to check it out first." Yesterday, I guessed it was around this time that he was affected. I want to see what the evil spirit is. Chun Yangting was a member of the metaphysics world and the hall master of the celestial master mansion, but he had encountered an evil spirit. If this news spread out, it would be really embarrassing. I could understand why Chun Yangting wanted to find out the truth. However, he had been affected yesterday, so why was he so confident today? I immediately stopped. With these two fools helping me, I didn't need to take risks. Han Wennan hesitated for a moment, but before he could make a decision, Chun Yangting had already walked over. Although Chun Yangting was confident, he was not stupid enough to pull the terracotta out. Instead, he took out a red talisman and threw it in front of the terracotta after receiving the Qi of the Way. A burst of flames ignited and then instantly extinguished. The scarlet talisman had already turned into ashes and scattered on the ground. At the same time, a surging chi of the way gushed out, and a figure wearing a horned crown, a robe, and a 3-foot-long sword appeared in front of the terracotta figurine. He reached out to grab the terracotta figurine and pulled it out. I wasn't very familiar with the scarlet talismans, so I couldn't see any clues from the talismans. However, as soon as I saw the silhouette, I immediately recognized Chun Yangting's talisman. This was an energy shield talisman. To be precise, it was the Jia Wu lightning chasing talisman. This lightning chasing talisman had nothing to do with heavenly thunder. It was only because of the Jia Wu god worshipped by the Taoists that the Jia Wu god was known as the thunder-chasing general. After the terracotta figurine fell out, I didn't have time to see if there was a soft tube connected to it. Instead, I saw a wisp of black air coming out of the black hole, shooting toward the thunder-chasing general. Chun Yangting's eyes brightened, and he immediately threw out the second talisman he had prepared. This talisman turned into a barrier. It didn't directly go toward the black air, but rather, it blocked the thunder-chasing general's back. The Jia Wu lightning-chasing general was just a phantom summoned by the talisman. The black air was extremely fast, and when it hit the thunder-chasing general, it pierced through his body and hit the barrier behind him. This time, it was not so easy to pass through. Although that barrier talisman was a talisman that I had never heard of, its power was not ordinary. It was like a flexible spider web that completely wrapped the black gas, making it unable to rush out for a while. At the same time, Chun Yangting lifted his foot and took a step forward. He had already prepared the heavenly footwork technique. He put his right index finger and middle finger together, holding a small talisman between them. He then pointed his fingers at the black air. As his finger moved forward, the talisman between his fingers had already turned into ashes. When his finger touched the black gas, a bright lightning bolt suddenly fell from the dark sky of the cave. It pierced the black gas at a speed invisible to the naked eye. The black air was also extraordinary. At this moment, it had already broken through the barrier and was about to charge toward Chun Yangting. Unfortunately, the lightning bolt had already struck. No matter how fast the black air was, it couldn't be faster than the lightning bolt. After being struck, it turned into a wisp of black smoke and disappeared. From the time Chun Yangting had used the first Jia Wu lightning chasing talisman until now, it had only been 10 seconds. During this time, he had used 3 talismans in a row, each more powerful than the previous one. The power of Mount Longhu's talismans was vividly displayed. Although I had been cursing him for being a fool, I couldn't help but be impressed by his strength at this moment. And I clearly realized that my current strength was far from his opponent. I could only keep the hatred of Tong Tong in my heart, and I didn't dare to easily take revenge in a short period of time. At this moment, Han Wannan suddenly spoke. He seemed to be a little hesitant as he asked Chun Yangting, "Fellow Taoist Chun, this black air, is it just a restriction?" Chun Yangting turned around and nodded with a solemn expression. "It should be a restriction, but its power is really too great. Even if there is one such restriction in every 10 terracotta figures, it's enough to be shocking on the whole." He was right. Because of this black air, he had used 3 talismans in a row, and the last one was a talisman that drew out the lightning bolt. Although its power was far less than the talisman that drew 3 lightning bolts in a row, this power was enough to reach the late stage of glorious consciousness, or even perfect glorious consciousness. It was only 1 or 2 steps away from the celestial master realm. Such a powerful power had only dealt with a black air. No wonder Chun Yangting had been caught off guard yesterday. As for the restriction that the two of them mentioned, I didn't find it strange. No matter where this place was, each terracotta figure contained a witch's corpse, and the soft tube contained liquid similar to the true dragon's saliva. All of these determined that this place was extraordinary. It was normal to have a powerful restriction protecting it. The two of them were silent for a while. This time, Han Wannan didn't deliberately delay the time. Instead, he turned to Professor Liang and asked, Professor, there's still many terracotta figures in front. Do we still need to take more terracotta figures out to study? Professor Liang nodded without hesitation. He pointed at a few terracotta figures in front of him and answered, "Of course, and we need a lot of them. These few are different, so it's best to take all of them out." Han Wenan and the others didn't suspect anything. They only thought that there were some differences in these terracotta figures that Professor Liang had pointed out deliberately. Only I knew that the terracotta figures he pointed out contained witch qi. The aura of the true dragon's vein and the witch qi were getting thicker, and the terracotta figures with witch qi were getting denser. At this moment, I didn't care how Professor Liang had recognized the terracotta figures with witch qi. Han Wenan had informed the Han family about the true dragon's vein. Today would be my last chance. With my power, I couldn't deal with the black air restriction. I could only rely on Han Wenan and Chen Yangting to take out enough terracotta figures and let the snake's spirit absorb as much of the liquid as possible. Professor Liang's words made me happy. Han Wenan nodded and didn't say anything else. He needed to take out a lot of terracotta figures, which was good for him. He could stall everyone here and delay the exposure of the true dragon's vein. I had already determined that the terracotta was not dangerous. The next step was to cut off the soft tube and transport it out. Only I had a long sword instrument on me. Moreover, I had other hidden intentions. Naturally, I would not pass on this task. I walked forward and carefully used my shaman qi to send the snake spirit out. Only then did I gather my Dao Qi on the green hillock sword and cut off the soft tube at the bottom of the terracotta's feet. The snake's spirit was cunning. I had told him about the situation here. As soon as the soft tube was cut, he went to the opening and greedily swallowed the liquid inside. Then, he didn't linger and returned to my body. With the witchcraft energy and his ethereal body, no one had noticed him. Moreover, at this moment, Han Wenan, Chen Yangting, and I were all looking at the soft tube that was connected to the mountain wall. Yesterday, when we had cut the soft tube, it had retreated as if it was a living creature. We were all startled. Today, of course, we wanted to see it clearly. However, the soft tube was very fast. After it was cut, it retreated as fast as lightning. Although we were all looking at it, we couldn't tell if it was a living creature or not. After a short rest, we went to the second terracotta figure that Professor Liang had pointed at. After the explosion, Han Wenan proactively went to take the terracotta figure and let Chen Yangting rest to recover his Dao energy. I stood behind her and looked at Han Wenan with a surprised expression. Even though I had always thought highly of him, his actions still made me secretly shocked. It must be known that Chen Yangting had the cultivation of glory of knowledge late stage, and it wasn't easy for him to deal with the black gas restriction. He had just reached glory of knowledge not long ago, and he actually dared to take the initiative to handle this matter. I didn't know about the others, but at the very least, I didn't have the confidence to deal with this restriction. Han Wenan's method was different from Chen Yangting's. He didn't use talismans, but used two magic tools at the same time. The leaf magic tool blocked the attack, and the copper ball that he saw yesterday hit the target, directly dispersing the black gas. This bronze ball artifact was obviously an artifact that he had never used before, but its power was really terrifying. It had the same effect as Chen Yangting's Heavenly Thunder Talisman. To be precise, it should be stronger than the Heavenly Thunder Talisman. After all, Chen Yangting's power was slightly stronger, and Han Wenan could use a lower cultivation to release the same power. This bronze ball artifact was naturally stronger than the Heavenly Thunder Talisman. Holding the green mound sword, I walked forward to cut the soft tube. I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. Ever since I had known Han Wenan, although he had always been the number one of the young generation in the metaphysics world, whether it was during the Young Phoenix Gathering or after, my performance was the true number one. I had always suppressed the others, including Han Wenan. But now, it seemed that Han Wenan had walked ahead of me. This was related to their family background. At the same time, it was also related to my Dao energy and witchcraft energy that I cultivated. Dao energy had encountered a heavenly barrier, and I couldn't recognize it, while witchcraft energy couldn't be cultivated. I looked at the darkness in front of the cave, feeling the thickening witchcraft energy in front of me. I didn't feel good. Chapter 300. What could I do even if I didn't want to? I wasn't a person who liked to take risks. Compared to the danger of encountering the heavenly master, the sense of loss in my heart was nothing. Han Wen and the others were the proud sons of heaven. Their current achievements were destined. As for me, I was lucky to have survived until now. I didn't need to compare myself to them. If I had a chance, I would go there and have a share of the magic energy. If I didn't, I wouldn't be angry. If I couldn't find a chance, there was still the Thai sway in Thailand. There was always a safe way. I quickly put my thoughts aside and walked forward. I cut the soft tube and helped the spirit serpent swallow the liquid inside. Along the way, the density of the terracotta warriors with magic energy increased. Later on, all the terracotta warriors had magic energy. In the following day, we had only moved 20 meters forward. Every time we dug a terracotta statue, we would encounter the black auras restriction. Everyone was in a state of tension. Han Wenan's goal of delaying had been achieved. Regardless of whether it was Chun Yangting or Miao Ju, neither of them had the time to sense the true dragon vein's aura, let alone discover it. Han Wenan and I had the same interests. In the morning, we had dug out more than 10 terracotta figures. I had to cut off the flexible tubes on each terracotta figure. Yesterday, the sword was stained with a drop of liquid. Today, I purposely slashed my sword against the mountain wall, leaving as many flexible tubes as possible on the terracotta statue's side. Correspondingly, the amount of liquid that could be obtained would be greater. According to my estimation, the spirit serpent had swallowed dozens of drops of liquid from each terracotta warrior. There were more than 10 terracotta warriors, so they had swallowed several hundred drops. The concentration of the liquid was much lower than the true dragon saliva. However, several hundred drops were equal to half of the true dragon saliva I had swallowed last time. I estimated that if the spirit serpent swallowed more than 10 terracotta warriors, it would have the same amount as the true dragon saliva I had swallowed last time. As I thought about this, I became suspicious. The spirit snake had only swallowed a small portion of the liquid left in the body after the soft tube was cut off. Moreover, there were only 20 of them, yet they were equivalent to the drop of true dragon saliva that I had swallowed. If the size of the true dragon vein was the same as the true dragon saliva, then wouldn't the true dragon vein in front of them be hundreds of times larger than the one in the jade bracelet? Although the true dragon vein in the jade bracelet had been used by the Metaphysics Association for many years, it was inevitable that it would become weaker and smaller. However, I still found it hard to believe that there was such a big difference. If I was a descendant of some aristocratic family, I might have to fight for it. Unfortunately, I wasn't, so I could only let the Han clan take advantage of it. At noon, when we stopped to rest and eat, I purposely chose a place far away from everyone to sit down. I secretly called out the spirit snake and asked him about his current situation, how far he was from transforming into a dragon, and how much of that liquid he needed. The spirit snake excitedly scuttled around on my back. If it wasn't for my repeated reminders, this fellow who couldn't keep his cool would have laughed out loud. After he excitedly scuttled around for a long time, he finally stopped and told me that he had stored more than half of the true dragon blood that he needed to transform into a dragon. As long as he could dig out a dozen more terracotta warriors in the afternoon, it would be enough for him to transform into a dragon. I became excited. After the spirit snake transformed into a dragon, it would be equivalent to the celestial master realm. Although he was always crazy, unreliable, and liked to take advantage of others, his loyalty wasn't a problem. When he successfully transformed into a dragon, he would be a great help to me. While I was calculating whether or not I could dig out enough terracotta warriors in the afternoon, Han Wen suddenly walked towards me from afar. I quickly asked the spirit snake to go back and eat a few mouthfuls of rice. When Han Wen arrived in front of me, I smiled and asked him, "What's up?" Han Wen had always been a serious person. At this moment, he wore a smile on his face. After he sat down next to me, he lowered his voice and said, "Our Han family has arrived. I'm here to inform you that you don't have to deliberately slow down in the afternoon." At first, I was stunned. Then, a warning siren sounded in my head. I turned my head to hide the panic on my face and asked him, "Your family has arrived in Shenzhen so soon? The true dragon vein should be not far from here. If we don't slow down in the afternoon, won't Miaojue and the others find us?" The Han family had arrived too quickly. According to my original estimation, they would arrive at night at the earliest. At that time, I would have gathered enough liquid to avoid them. As long as I stayed far away from them, I wouldn't have to meet the Celestial Master. As for this case, the Han family would have discovered the problem when they were dealing with the true dragon vein. It was highly likely that they would have taken care of it. But now that the Han family had arrived, it had completely disrupted my plan. He said that it would be fine if they arrived in Shenzhen, but if they were already here, it would be over. It would be impossible to avoid meeting them. Once my identity was exposed, I would definitely die today. Han Wennan smiled mysteriously at me and shook his head. Of course, it's not just in Shenzhen. The direct descendants of the Han family have a special magical tool. When they are very close to us, we can sense it. The person who came is my fourth uncle. He should be in this cave by now. As for Miaojue and Chun Daozhong, it's already too late for them to find the true dragon vein. It's over. These two words popped up in my mind. My face instantly paled. If it wasn't for the dark cave, I wouldn't have been able to conceal my expression. I didn't say anything for a long time, but Han Wennan didn't suspect anything. He said to me excitedly, "This time, it's all thanks to Brother Zhang. Don't worry. Our Han family always knows how to repay favors. After this matter is over, if Brother Zhang needs anything, you can tell us. As long as we can do it, our Han family won't hesitate." At this moment, I finally recovered from my desperate thoughts. My brain was spinning crazily. The Celestial Master of the Han family was about to arrive, but I wasn't willing to give up. I immediately said to Han Wennan, "Brother Han, it's not the time to celebrate yet. We can't be careless. Although the Celestial Master of the Han family is here, it's best if we can keep this a secret. Why don't we wait until we return and let the Han family secretly take over this place? We won't leak any information. Isn't that better?" The only thing I could fight for now was Han Wennan's attitude. I hoped that he could influence the Celestial Master of the Han family and persuade him to return before he found me. It was the only way I could escape with my life. Unexpectedly, Han Wennan smiled and said faintly, "My fourth uncle has arrived. It doesn't matter if Chun Yangting and the others find out. Moreover, my fourth uncle just sent me a message. He told me that we don't need to hide this matter. It's better to let Qin Yangting and the others spread the news. In the afternoon, we should speed up. We don't need to worry about Professor Liang's terracotta warriors anymore. We should move forward and find the true dragon vein first." His words were completely out of my expectations. However, after thinking about it for a while, I instantly understood what he meant. It wasn't a secret that the true dragon vein of the Metaphysics Society had been lost. The young phoenix gathering that was held once every 3 years was approaching. At that time, the Metaphysics Society would definitely be at a loss. At such a crucial moment, the Han family suddenly obtained a true dragon vein. It didn't matter if they wanted to use it to attract the youths of the Metaphysics Society to join them or use it to help the Metaphysics Society overcome this crisis. It would greatly increase their power and prestige. Thus, not only did the Han family not want to hide it, they even wanted to publicize it with great fanfare. Under such circumstances, Chen Yangting and Monk Miaoju were the best publicity tools. There was indeed no need to hide it. The pitiful excuse that I had racked my brain to come up with wasn't of any use at all. I panicked and tried to struggle, but I couldn't think of any good excuse. I could only ask him when fourth uncle would meet up with us. However, Han Wennan shook his head. He seemed to have some doubts as well. He said, "Just now he sent a message saying that he discovered something in this cave and is preparing to investigate. He told us to go ahead and search for the true dragon vein on our own. He will naturally appear when we find the true dragon vein." His words made me puzzled. There were many strange things in the cave. It was understandable that Han Wennan's fourth uncle would go and investigate it if he discovered something unusual. However, Nan Gong had told me that all the Celestial Masters had to kill me on sight. There was no reason for Han Wenan's fourth uncle to let me go and investigate something else. Could it be that he still hadn't discovered my existence? Chapter 301. I didn't know if the celestial master of the Han family didn't see me or if he had something more important than killing me, so he didn't have time to deal with me. I could only hope for the best and pretend that he hadn't seen me yet. I had two choices. One was to turn around and leave this place, and the other was to brace myself and keep going. There's no need to mention how dangerous it would be if we kept going. The celestial master's goal was the true dragon vein in front of us. If we kept going, we would eventually meet him. The danger of turning around and leaving wasn't small at all. With my current strength, even if I closed my eyes, I could still sense anything within a 10-meter radius around me, not to mention the celestial master's ability. So, if the Han family celestial master really didn't notice me, it couldn't be that he had walked past US and missed me. It could only be that he had encountered something and was delayed, so he hadn't met us yet. If that was the case, if I turned around now, I would bump into him. While I was hesitating, a clear voice came to my ears. Mr. Zhang. I turned around and saw Professor Liang's female student, Mu Xian. I was surprised. What's up? Mu Xian smiled. Professor Liang asked me to invite you over. He said he has something to discuss with you. I lifted my head and saw Professor Liang sitting not far from me. When he saw me looking at him, he nodded and smiled at me. At this moment, I was facing a life-or-death situation. I didn't have time to discuss things with this strange Professor Liang. Instinctively, I wanted to reject him. Mu Xian suddenly came closer to me and said mysteriously, Professor Liang said that he can help you with what you're doing. He asked you to come with him. I was moved. He can help me with what I'm doing? To help me deal with the Han family's celestial master or to help me escape? However, after thinking about it, I shook my head with a wry smile. The celestial master's prestige wasn't easy to deal with. I was afraid that wasn't what Professor Liang was talking about. However, I didn't reject him. I nodded and followed Mu Xian to Professor Liang. A drowning man would inevitably try to grab a life-saving straw. It didn't matter if Professor Liang was a life-saving straw or an illusory bubble. As long as I could grab it, I would try to grab it. I sat cross-legged in front of Professor Liang. I looked at him and asked, What's the matter? Professor Liang had a fake smile on his face. After a long silence, he said, In the morning, I saw that Mr. Zhang was very interested in the terracotta figures that were dug out. Did Mr. Zhang find something on them? I wasn't sure what he meant. After hesitating for a moment, I said half-truthfully, That's right. However, I'm not interested in the terracotta figurines. I'm interested in the soft tube below the terracotta figurines. The liquid inside the tube will help my cultivation. I see. Professor Liang smiled and nodded. In that case, how many more terracotta figures do you need? In the afternoon, I will instruct them to dig a few more to satisfy Mr. Zhang's needs. I wasn't in the mood to take the liquid from the terracotta figurines. The spirit serpent needed 10 more terracotta figurines to transform into a dragon. However, it didn't mean that it would transform immediately. It would need more time to digest all the liquid. After that, it would have to go through a life-and-death ordeal to transform into a dragon. It wouldn't be of any help to my current predicament. However, Professor Liang's words made me curious. After hesitating for a while, I said, I need around 10 more terracotta figurines. Professor Liang, I'm very grateful for your help. If there's anything you need me to do, please don't hesitate to tell me. He laughed and shook his head. I just want to know why Mr. Zhang is interested in these terracotta figurines. Mr. Zhang, you're a straightforward person. I already know the reason. Mr. Zhang, don't worry. This afternoon, I will instruct them to dig up 10 more terracotta figurines. Then, he stood up and asked the others to get back to work. I was bewildered by his strange words, but I wasn't as panicky as before. After thinking for a while, I decided to follow the others and move forward. Whether we moved forward or retreated, the danger was the same. If we moved forward, the spirit serpent would have enough true dragon saliva. Moreover, there was the true dragon vein and the possibility of the Tai Sui. Putting aside the true dragon vein, the Tai Sui was much stronger than the Heavenly Master. If we could get the Tai Sui's protection, we wouldn't need to worry about the Heavenly Master of the Han family. After making up my mind, I didn't hesitate anymore. I packed my things and followed the others. Professor Liang kept his promise. Soon, he asked the others to dig more terracotta figurines. He didn't care about Han Wen'an's urging. Han Wen'an didn't know what to do with him. After digging 10 terracotta figurines, he agreed to move forward at full speed. After swallowing the liquid from 10 more terracotta figurines, the spirit serpent told me that it had enough true dragon blood to transform into a dragon. Satisfied, it returned to my back and didn't move again. We moved forward at full speed for dozens of meters. The aura of the true dragon vein in front of us was very thick. Chen Yangting finally sensed it. He halted and screamed, "The aura in front of us. It's the true dragon vein." Then he turned to look at me, Han Wen'an, and the others with a face full of surprise. However, when he saw our calm faces, the joy on his face disappeared. He put on a skeptical face and asked, "Did you already know about it?" His words made me feel awkward. Even though the Taoist and Xian schools came from the same lineage, they were still different. The Xian school studied feng shui, and even the cultivation realms were known as dragon-seeking, acupoint sealing, and glorious knowledge. On the other hand, the Taoist school's study of geomancy couldn't be compared to the mystical school. Their 3 realms were called true fire, pure yang, and star treading, which were different from the mystical school. This was due to the difference in our paths of cultivation. That was why Chen Yangting's slow reaction was within my expectations. The only thing that made me feel strange was that Miao Ju didn't seem surprised when he heard Chen Yangting's words. Could it be that he had already noticed the true dragon vein? The Buddhist school's cultivation was very different from the Taoist and mystical schools. However, the foundation of their power was also the true dragon vein. There was no reason for him not to be tempted by it. If he had already sensed it, why didn't he contact the Buddhist school behind him and take it for himself? I couldn't understand the monk's thoughts, but Chen Yangting's thoughts were much more obvious. After he realized the current situation, he made a prompt decision and said to Chen Yangting and Monk Miao Ju, fellow Taoist Han, "Master Miao Ju, the true dragon vein is not a trivial matter. It's not something the 3 of us can decide. Why don't we retreat immediately and report the situation to our respective sects? Let them discuss and make a decision. What do you think?" He wasn't a fool. After knowing that Chen Yangting and the others had discovered the true dragon vein earlier and had yet to make a move, he didn't think of monopolizing the true dragon vein just because of his cultivation. Instead, he settled for the next best thing and wanted a share of the pie. Unfortunately, after hearing his words, Monk Miao Ju was like an old monk in meditation. He didn't say a word. Han Wen'an grinned and said, "Taoist Chun, you're wrong. This true dragon vein already has an owner. We're here to investigate Yu Fuda's murder case, not to see the true dragon vein. Taoist Chun, you shouldn't put the cart before the horse." Chen Yangting's expression immediately turned gloomy. He wasn't a fool. If this true dragon vein really had an owner, how could it allow so many people to walk in this cave for so long? Han Wen'an's words clearly meant that he wanted to monopolize the true dragon vein. He turned to look at Monk Miao Ju and even at me. It was a pity that neither of our faces revealed the expression he wanted to see. Chen Yangting gritted his teeth and turned to stare at Han Wen'an. "This place isn't far from my celestial master mansion. If fellow Taoist Han wants to monopolize it, I'm afraid you're too greedy." Han Wen'an smiled and said sincerely, "Taoist Chun, you've really misunderstood. This true dragon vein originally belongs to my Han clan. The Metaphysics Association is also aware of this. If Taoist Chun doesn't believe me, you can follow me to the front." My Han clan's celestial master elder is stationed there. Chen Yangting's expression instantly darkened. Han Wen'an's meaning couldn't be clearer. The Han clan's celestial master elder was right there. Well, why did he have to fight for it? Furthermore, Han Wen'an hinted that the Metaphysics Association was also aware of the situation. The Celestial Master Mansion was very powerful. While the Han clan might not be a match for them, the Metaphysics Association wasn't one to be trifled with. After pulling the Metaphysics Association in, how could the Celestial Master Mansion use force? I sighed as I watched from the side. Although Han Wen looked honest and sincere on the surface, in reality, how could an honest person make it this far in the pugilistic world? Chen Yangting was silent for a long time. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "I see. Then, I'll follow fellow Taoist Han to pay a visit to the Han clan's Celestial Master Elder." Chapter 302. After walking for dozens of steps, a white light suddenly appeared in front of us. This light wasn't very strong, but it was very obvious under the light of the searchlights. The true dragon vein was the foundation of cultivation. The cultivators in this world, including the Geomasters, had to obtain their Tao energy from the true dragon vein. Han Wenan, Chen Yangting, and I weren't unfamiliar with this white light. It was the light of the true dragon vein. Although Han Wenan and I had sensed the true dragon vein's aura yesterday, aura was just an aura. When we saw this white light, we were sure that it was the true dragon vein. Everybody was excited. They lifted their feet and were about to move forward. Han Wenan suddenly stopped and turned to Professor Liang and the armed police officers. "It's dangerous ahead. You shouldn't move forward. You should go back for now. We've taken a lot of terracotta warriors today. I'm afraid you'll have to walk a few more times to transport them all out. After you're done, we'll leave this place after we're done here. If we're late, we'll have to trouble Professor Liang to tell Deputy Bureau Chief Zhang not to worry." Professor Liang wasn't an ordinary person. If Han Wen could sense the shamanic energy, he would know that. However, Han Wen didn't know the existence of shamanic energy. Of course, he treated him as an ordinary expert. I thought that Professor Liang wouldn't be willing to leave. However, he nodded without hesitation. He didn't even bother to ask. He called his 2 students and the other armed police officers, turned around, and walked back. He didn't seem to be curious about the true dragon vein in front of him. After they were far away, Han Wenan pointed forward and said with a smile, "Guys, please." Chen Yangting snorted and took the lead. As we moved forward, the white light became brighter. It illuminated the cave as if it was daytime. After walking for around 100 meters, we finally saw the exit of the cave. The true dragon vein was so big that this cave couldn't contain it. If I wasn't wrong, the exit would lead to a massive space where the true dragon vein was. As we moved forward, the true dragon energy in the air was so thick that we didn't even need to absorb it. The dragon energy automatically entered our bodies. I turned my head to take a look. No matter if it was Han Wenan or Chen Yangting, their faces were rosy. This wasn't because they were in a good mood, but because of a nourishment from the true dragon chi. The true dragon vein in front of them was incomparable to the true dragon vein of the Metaphysical Society. The true dragon vein of the Metaphysical Society had been used for many years and was already broken. This true dragon vein, on the other hand, had been accumulating power for an unknown period of time. This was the first time a cultivator saw it. When breaking through to the dragon-seeking realm in front of the true dragon's vein, there was a saying of dragon chi baptism. However, compared to the ceremony that we all experienced back then, this was the real dragon chi baptism. Bathing in the surging true dragon chi, any cultivator's strength would soar. If I hadn't encountered the heavenly barrier that prevented my Tao Chi from entering glory of knowledge, I would have broken through to the next level with this dragon Chi baptism, from 1-star glory of knowledge to 2-star glory of knowledge. However, even so, I had gained many benefits. The Tao Chi that had been used up by the ink pearl in the meridian of heaven was completely replenished. Moreover, the jade bracelet on my neck was continuously absorbing the true dragon chi in the air to replenish the damaged true dragon vein. Apart from that, there's a lot of shaman chi in the air, and the thickness was probably comparable to the dragon chi. Previously, no matter if it was at the entrance of the tunnel or on the terracotta statues, I found traces of shaman chi. However, the shaman chi wasn't thick enough for me to absorb. Thinking about it, this was the first time I absorbed shaman chi after entering Glory of Knowledge. Almost instantly, a large amount of shaman chi surged into my meridian of heaven and revolved around the shaman chi source stone at the bottom of the meridian of heaven. Not long after, I felt that the shaman chi source stone, which was originally the size of a thumb, had doubled in size to the size of a walnut. Moreover, it was still increasing in size. If I continued to absorb it, it wouldn't take long for the shaman chi source stone to split into two and reach the level of 2-star Glory of Knowledge. I broke into a smile, not only because of the increase in shaman chi, but also because the thick shaman chi in front of me proved that the Tai Sui was definitely at the end of the cave. With the Tai Sui, I had the power to resist the Heavenly Master. At that moment, the enormous pressure in my heart was finally relieved. I tried my best to absorb the shaman chi and follow behind Han Wenan and the others as they rushed out of the cave. Soon, they arrived at the exit of the cave. Qin Yangting was walking at the front. As soon as he stepped out of the cave, his whole body clearly froze. He raised his head and stood there motionlessly with an expression of disbelief on his face. Han Wenan and Miao Zhu were next. Their expressions weren't any better, and they also looked as if they had seen a ghost. It was especially so for Miao Zhu, who had always been calm and indifferent, but now his expression was even more exaggerated than Han Wenan and the others. His whole body was trembling, his palms were clasped together in front of his chest, and he kept chanting the name of Buddha. Cultivators at our realm couldn't have never seen a true dragon vein. No matter how big the true dragon vein in front of us was, it couldn't make them have such an exaggerated expression. It was because of the Tai Sui. The first time I saw Little Gold and the so-called Heavenly Laws corpse in the Corpsine sect, my expression wasn't much better than theirs. But now, I had seen the true dragon vein and the Tai Sui more than once. The only strange thing this time was that the true dragon vein and the Tai Sui were together. I confidently stepped out of the cave. When I lifted my head to look, I was dumbfounded. No matter if it was the true dragon vein or the Tai Sui, they wouldn't surprise me. Even if there were 3 true dragon veins and 5 Tai Sui, I wouldn't be completely dumbfounded. However, the scene in front of me was beyond my imagination. It wasn't much different from what I had expected. The true dragon vein and the Tai Sui were both here, and there was only one of each. However, the Tai Sui in front of me was one with the true dragon vein. To be precise, there was a 100-meter-tall giant standing in the huge cave in front of me. He was squatting and leaning forward. This giant didn't have a head, neck, or shoulders. Above his chest, the dark brown body was gone. Instead, it was replaced by an illusory flood dragon. The flood dragon's body was covered in layers of fine, fluorescent white scales. 2 short arms, also covered in scales, extended from both sides. Below them were tiger paws and eagle claws. Above the flood dragon's neck was a dragon head with antlers and a camel's head. It had rabbit eyes and cow ears. Above the dragon head were 2 huge dragon eyes that were facing the cave we had just come out of. When the dragon eyes opened and closed, light overflowed. Below the dragon's mouth, there was also a drop of milky white true dragon saliva. It wasn't any different from the true dragon vein I had seen before. The only difference was that the drop of true dragon saliva was very big. It was only a little smaller than the dragon head. Moreover, the true dragon saliva was attached to the mountain wall. There was a thick soft tube on the mountain wall, and clear liquid constantly gushed out of it. After the liquid gushed into the air, most of it fell to the ground. A part of it that looked like a milky white flocculent floated up and merged with the true dragon saliva. At first glance, I understood that the true dragon saliva didn't come from the dragon's mouth. It came from the soft tube. As for the soft tube, although it was abnormally thick, I could see that it came from the same source as the soft tubes that were connected to the feet of the terracotta warriors in the cave. The true dragon vein's body was transformed from the Tai Sui, and the true dragon saliva came from the terracotta warriors through the soft tube. I suddenly had an absurd thought. Could it be that someone was creating the true dragon vein? It was impossible. The true dragon vein was a supreme treasure that God and God had bestowed to mankind. It could only be worshipped and not desecrated. Who would dare to create it? Who could create it? Moreover, there was the terrifyingly huge Tai Sui. Shaman Qi and Taoist Qi were mortal enemies. The Tai Sui and the true dragon vein were on two different levels. They were as different as heaven and earth. They shouldn't be related at all. Why were they like one body and could even support each other? Chapter 303. The group of people stood there in a daze for half a minute. The first to react was still Qin Yangting. He had a look of disbelief on his face as he turned around and looked at Han Wennan. He asked almost incoherently, "This dragon vein? Why is this dragon vein in human form?" Han Wennan's usual calm expression was gone. He stood there with a puzzled expression. How could he answer Qin Yangting? I was dumbstruck as I listened to their conversation. The dragon vein taking the form of a human? Only Qin Yangting could think of that. However, I couldn't blame him. The Tai Sui was just a legend to the people in the metaphysics world. Just like Goldie. I had seen him many times, but I didn't recognize him. If Liang Tianxin hadn't followed me to the Yellow Spring River and called him out, I probably wouldn't have known the Tai Sui existed in this world. Han Wennan did not speak, but Qin Yangting spoke more. He seemed to have understood something. He turned his head and stared at Han Wennan. He asked, "You said that this is the dragon vein of your Han family, and that there is a celestial master of the Han family guarding it? Now that we're here, where's the Han family's celestial master? Also, if this is the Han family's dragon vein, let me ask you, why did the dragon vein take the form of a human?" Normally, Han Wennan would have been able to deal with Qin Yangting's questions, but at this moment, he was distracted by the Tai Sui true dragon vein before him, and Qin Yangting had the upper hand with his words. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Qin Yangting didn't let him off easily. He took a step forward and said, "I always thought that Brother Han was a sincere gentleman who treated people with sincerity. I didn't expect that Brother Han would deceive us in order to monopolize the true dragon vein." I immediately understood. Qin Yangting had the thought of snatching the true dragon's vein. Mount Longhu was different from the Han family. They had 2,000 years of Taoist heritage, and they had no lack of true dragon veins. Hence, after listening to Han Wennan, Qin Yangting didn't resist and gave up on the fight for the true dragon vein. However, it was different now. Regardless of whether it was metaphysics or Taoism, anomalies were treasures bestowed by the heavens. Anomalies in one's life could lead to great things, and anomalies in objects could be considered rare and precious. This true dragon vein was a rare treasure in the first place. At this moment, it gave birth to a phenomenon. Not just us cultivators of the glory of consciousness realm, even the celestial masters on Dragon Tiger Mountain, who were in seclusion all year round to study the heavenly Tao, would be moved. As long as they could obtain this true dragon vein and offer it to their sect, it would be Qin Yangting's qualification to advance. Most importantly, the heavenly master of the Han clan did not appear. Not only did Qin Yangting have strange thoughts, but I also had some plans. My abilities might not be a match for Qin Yangting and Han Wennan, but I still had the snake's spirit on me. With the help of the old witch, after he molted, he already had the cultivation of glory of consciousness. Now that he had swallowed so much saliva of the real dragon, he was only a step away from transforming into a dragon. Our combined powers were not much weaker than Qin Yangting's. If the Han family celestial master did not come, I would dare to stay here and absorb the Tai Sui shaman Qi. Unfortunately, Qin Yangting dared to take the gamble, but I did not. Qin Yangting only found out about the true dragon vein today. Judging by his own experience, he might guess that Han Wennan only found it today. However, I knew that Han Wennan found the true dragon vein yesterday. The probability of the Han family's celestial master being in this cave was much higher than the probability of him not being in the cave. So, the only thought in my mind was to escape. Qin Yangting and Han Wennan would definitely fight. I would watch from the side. If the two of them really fought, and the Han family celestial master did not appear, it proved that the Han family celestial master had met with an accident. By then, I would have no more worries and escape first. So, I leaned against the mountain wall and stood still. I silently absorbed the surrounding Tai Sui's surging shaman chi and watched Chen Yangting and Han Wenan's verbal confrontation. At that moment, Han Wenan finally reacted. He looked at Chen Yangting coldly and said, "Although this is the Han family's dragon vein, it's my first time here. I don't know about the dragon vein's transformation. If Chen Daozhong thinks that I'm lying because of this, it's ridiculous. Frankly speaking, my fourth uncle is the one guarding this place. He's been guarding this place for a long time. He's probably in seclusion right now. If Chen Daozhong has other thoughts because my fourth uncle hasn't shown up, I advise you to reconsider. Don't regret it when it's too late." Han Wenan's heart was firm, and his words were not polite at all. Chen Yangting gritted his teeth, and his expression changed. It was obvious that he could not make up his mind. While the two of them were in a deadlock, the shaman chi source stone in my body suddenly changed. When I was in the tunnel outside, I had absorbed the surrounding shaman chi into my body. The shaman chi source stone had already expanded to the size of a walnut. Now that I was near the Tai Sui, the shaman chi source stone was even denser. I had only absorbed for a short while, and the shaman chi source stone had expanded again. Moreover, it had reached the boundary between 1 and 2 stars. In a heavenly vein, the walnut-sized shaman chi source stone suddenly spun. As it spun, the middle of the shaman chi source stone slowly caved in like a cell dividing. From a sphere, it gradually turned into a spindle. After that, the depression in the middle became deeper, and it slowly became 2 connected spheres. Then, it gradually separated into 2 thumb-sized dark green spheres. The moment the 2 spheres separated, a large amount of shaman chi surged into my meridians and gathered around the 2 ink spheres, wrapping them up. My body shook, and I felt an extremely comfortable feeling spreading from my limbs. I felt extremely clear, and all the pores on my body opened up. Endless power filled my body, and even my vision seemed to have improved. When I raised my head, everything around me became clearer. At the same time, the large amount of shaman chi that surged into my body formed a gust of wind around me. The sudden phenomenon attracted Han Wenan and Chen Yangting's gazes. At the start, the two of them were confused, but very quickly, an expression of disbelief appeared on their faces. They practically said at the same time, "Zhou, E." I was stunned at first, then I lowered my head to look at the EMOB that I kept close to my body. Just now, when my realm had increased, the shaman energy that had surged into my body had completely isolated the Tao energy. Without the support of the Tao energy, the EMOB had completely lost its effect. My appearance had also returned to my original appearance. I didn't have time to think and instantly took out the Yin-Yang Yama brush. At the same time, I took a step to the side with my left leg and was prepared to use the heavenly step technique. After being surrounded by the 10 masters of the Metaphysics Association, I knew that I was the enemy of the entire metaphysics world. It didn't matter if Han Wenan and Chen Yangting were my friends or foes. We would be mortal enemies when we met in the future. The situation was extremely chaotic. Chen Yangting and Han Wenan wanted to snatch the true dragon vein, and I was their common enemy. The 3 of us stood in a triangle and looked at each other. As we were wary of each other, we were in a stalemate, and no one dared to make the first move. My mind worked quickly. At that moment, Han Wenan was the least anxious. The Han family's master would definitely appear, and it was just a matter of time. Although Chen Yangting definitely wouldn't be able to obtain the true dragon vein, the Han family's master wouldn't dare to easily take his life, as he was the master of the mysterious altar hall. The one in the most danger was me. Once the Han family's master appeared, it would be hard for me to survive. After understanding the situation, I said to Chen Yangting, "Chen Daozhong, although we have an old grudge, your current goal is the true dragon vein. The Han family's master will indeed arrive soon. If you want to deal with me, you won't have a chance after the Han family's master arrives. But as long as you and I work together to escape from this cave, you could get in touch with your sect. Longhu Mountain is not far from here. When the time comes, the celestial masters of Longhu Mountain will make their move. Even if the celestial master of the Han clan arrives a step earlier, this true dragon vein will still be yours. I only hope to escape with my life. Chen Daozhong, please reconsider. Even though I had a grudge against Chen Yangting, joining hands with him was my only chance of survival. I originally thought that it was the best choice, but who knew that after I said that, Chen Yangting and Han Wenan's reactions were completely beyond my expectations. The first to speak was Chen Yangting. He looked at me coldly and rejected my suggestion without thinking. He sneered. Celestial Master Zhang has already ordered that all members of the Celestial Master's sect must kill you on sight. Zhou Yi, you're delusional if you want to trick me into joining hands with you. As he said that, a talisman appeared in his hand. He raised his hand and threw it at me. Han Wennan, who had been silent at the side, suddenly made a move. He threw the leaf magic tool in his hand almost at the same time as Chen Yangting, but his target wasn't me. Instead, it blocked in front of Chen Yangting and resisted the power of his talisman. Then, Han Wennan turned and said to me in a deep voice, Zhou Yi, let's go. I was dumbfounded. Chen Yangting, whom I tried to win over, didn't hesitate to attack me, but Han Wennan, whom I had targeted, wanted to let me go. What was going on? Before I could react, Chen Yangting and Han Wennan were already fighting fiercely. I gritted my teeth. I didn't have time to think about their strange reactions. Without hesitation, I lifted my feet and walked out of the cave. However, just as I took 1 or 2 steps forward, Chen Yangting and Han Wennan, who were engaged in an intense battle, seemed to be pulled away by 2 large hands, instantly separating them. At the same time, an indistinct sigh sounded from afar. Fool! Chapter 304. A skinny figure appeared at the entrance that we had come from. This person was around 60 years old, with gray hair all over his head. His face was sickly sallow, and his slender eyes were half open. He coughed from time to time. He looked like a tuberculosis patient, so thin that a gust of wind could blow him away. Just like us, when he entered the cave, a large amount of qi of the way around him surged into his body. Perhaps it was because the endurance of the Celestial Master Realm was stronger, but the amount of qi of the way that surged into his body was terrifying. It almost formed a tornado, so much so that I could see it clearly with my naked eye. The person in the middle of the tornado seemed to be unaware of all this. He covered his mouth and coughed. As he walked over, he looked up at the Tai Sui and the true dragon vein in the distance and muttered something. When he walked closer to me, I heard him mutter softly, as expected. Had Heaven Master Han seen the Tai Sui turning into the true dragon vein before? Or had he guessed it? Heaven Master Han's knowledge was far beyond that of Chen Yangting and the others. Heaven Master Han naturally wouldn't mistake the scene in front of him for the true dragon vein transforming into a human. I stood in silence. I couldn't muster up any thoughts of resistance. I only felt a deep sense of helplessness as I quietly waited for the judgment of fate. Before the heavenly master of the Han family appeared, I had imagined the worst scenario. If I couldn't escape, I would have to fight him to the death. But now, I realized to my dismay that fighting to the death was not the worst scenario. Right now, I was numbly waiting for death. That was the most pitiful scenario. Heaven Master Han didn't deal with me immediately, or rather, he didn't pay attention to me at all. He raised his head and stared at the half of the Tai Sui and the true dragon vein in front of him. Only when the storm of Taoist energy that had surged into his body slowly dissipated did he finally remember me. His gaze slowly shifted to me, and he asked weakly, "Are you the remnant of the witch tribe, Zhou Yi?" I gritted my teeth and didn't answer. I gripped the Yin-Yang Yama brush tightly in my hand. I didn't know if the numb feeling of waiting for death was due to my cowardice or the Heavenly Master's aura. However, the only thing I was sure of was that I didn't want to die a cowardly death, even if the other party was the heavenly master. At this moment, Han Wan-nan suddenly spoke. His voice was simple and honest as he said loudly, "Fourth uncle, I wasn't far away from the battle at the back mountain of the Metaphysics Association. The 10 celestial masters attacked together, but Zhou managed to escape with his life. He wouldn't have been able to do it alone. There was a powerful force behind him." My father often said that although the Han family was big, in front of some real forces, the Han family was just a small fly that could be killed with a slap. So he often warned us not to get involved in things that we shouldn't get involved in. Our goal this time is the true dragon vein. Once we obtain it, our Han clan will have a strong foundation. If we kill Zhou now and offend the force behind him, it will definitely bring disaster to the Han clan. The skinny old man that Han Wan-nan called fourth uncle raised his eyelids and said softly, "Oh, so that's what you're thinking. That little kid from the Celestial Master sect. Why don't you let the remnant of the witch tribe leave? Aren't you afraid of the force behind him taking revenge?" After the Han clan's Celestial Master arrived, Chen Yangting's expression didn't look any better. If this place was really occupied by the Han clan, as Han Wan-nan had said, it would be fine. If not, it would be normal for the Han clan to have the intention to silence them for the true dragon vein. He was worried, but when he heard the Han clan's Celestial Master's question, he subconsciously said proudly, "What force is behind him? They're just some ants that can't see the light. Why would the Celestial Master abode be afraid of them? If they want to take revenge, the Celestial Master abode will definitely uproot them." The Han clan's Celestial Master turned his head and looked at Han Wan-nan. He asked with a faint smile, "Look at his ambition." Han Wan-nan kept quiet for a while, then said in a low, muffled voice, "The Han clan isn't like the Celestial Master abode. We don't have their confidence." That's right. The Han family's Celestial Master sighed when he heard this. However, he quickly said, "But how can we not be confident in this matter? The entire metaphysics world will stand on our side when we fight against the sorcerer tribe. We can't be any more confident." Han Wan-nan opened his mouth and seemed to want to say something, but the Han clan Celestial Master didn't have the mood to argue anymore. He extended his hand to stop him and made the final conclusion. "Remember, if you see the remnant of the witch tribe, there's only one word, kill." After he said the word kill, the atmosphere in the cave instantly became solemn. Han Wan-nan didn't say anything else, but looked at me with regret and helplessness. I smiled bitterly. Although I didn't know why, it was obvious that Han Wan-nan was helping me. It was a pity that the Han clan's Celestial Master was the decisive force. An unparalleled aura suddenly appeared in front of me. It was as though I was in an air compressor. Endless pressure came from all directions, and the space seemed to be collapsing. I opened my mouth and took a deep breath, but I couldn't inhale. It was as though my lungs were being squeezed by a hand. Although it wasn't my first time feeling the Celestial Master's power, it felt the same every time. No matter if I was in the pressure point realm or glory realm, the Celestial Master's power was always unparalleled. At this moment, I no longer had any extravagant hopes of fighting against the Heavenly Master. The only thought that remained in my heart was to desperately take one more breath and desperately live for one more second. Glory and pride were easily defeated by the will to continue living at this moment. Under the endless pressure, I couldn't inhale a single breath. I was on the verge of suffocating, and my consciousness was getting blurry. However, at that moment, the pressure around me suddenly disappeared. I took a deep breath. Because I had inhaled too much, I choked and coughed. While I was coughing, I greedily inhaled. I looked extremely distressed. After I had regained my breath, I lifted my head to see what had happened. When I lifted my head, I was stunned. A figure appeared at the entrance of the cave. Moreover, I was familiar with this figure. It was Professor Liang, who had left earlier. It wasn't strange for Professor Liang to appear here. After all, when we had approached this place, Han Wan-nan had urged him to leave. Since he was curious, it was normal for him to sneak in. However, what was strange was that the Celestial Master of the Han family was gazing at him. The tired expression on his face had disappeared, and his lips were tight. I could see that he was facing a formidable enemy. I didn't understand why the Celestial Master of the Han family had released me at the last moment because of Professor Liang. Before I could figure it out, the Celestial Master of the Han family opened his mouth and asked Professor Liang coldly, "Who are you?" Professor Liang didn't answer. It was Han Wan-Nan who answered quickly. "He's Liang Liren, a professor in the team that's investigating the major murder case. He's an expert on the pre-Qin civilization at Peking University." He could see that something was wrong from Celestial Master Han's face. Then he asked skeptically, "As far as I know, you've been a professor at Peking University for more than 20 years. Why?" Before he could finish, the Celestial Master of the Han family interrupted him. He turned to Professor Liang and said, "You're not a member of the witch tribe. It's okay that you came here uninvited, but why did you save the remnant of the witch tribe? Aren't you afraid of attracting trouble?" Professor Liang grinned. His wizened face had layers of wrinkles. He smiled and said, "I wanted to save him, so I did. Why'd I need a reason? And I found this cave. You're the one who came uninvited." As soon as he finished talking, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in front of the Celestial Master of the Han family. He didn't use any talismans or magical tools. Instead, he aimed his palm at the Celestial Master's face. Seeing this, I felt much better. Although I didn't know who this mysterious Professor Liang was, he had the power to resist the Celestial Master of the Han family. The near-death experience made me understand how precious life was. I didn't want to wait for the result of the battle between the Celestial Master of the Han family and Professor Liang. I wanted to run away. However, as soon as I moved, Chun Yangting, who had been watching me, moved. He stood in front of me and used 2 talismans to block the way. I hurried to use the Yin and Yang Yama brush to block his talismans. My heart sank. Shin Yangting's power wasn't ordinary. I couldn't deal with him alone. I had to ask the spirit snake to help me. The spirit snake's power wasn't bad. Its cultivation base was at the later stage of glorious memory. However, it was just a spirit. At the same realm, it was weaker than a human cultivator. Moreover, Qin Yangting was a core disciple of Mount Longhu's Zhengyi school. His techniques weren't something the spirit snake could compare to. Even if the 2 of us joined hands, we could barely fight against him. Just as I had expected, Qin Yangting was like a stubborn dog skin plaster. He stuck to me and the spirit snake. We couldn't get rid of him quickly. My plan to run away was ruined. I was afraid that I could only wait for the result of the battle between Professor Liang and the Celestial Master of the Han family. However, right at this moment, the Celestial Master of the Han family's stern voice came from their battle. "Han Wan-Nan, join hands with the man from the Celestial Master sect and kill this evil remnant of the shaman tribe. If you don't kill him, don't blame us for being merciless." It was obvious that the Celestial Master of the Han family wasn't in a good situation. Otherwise, he could have waited until the result of their battle to kill me. Han Wan-Nan's face changed when he heard that. A few seconds later, he sighed with a pale face. "Brother Zhou, I'm sorry." Then he took out the leaf magic tool in his hand and attacked me. I sighed in my heart. Han Wan-Nan had always wanted to let me go. Moreover, he was a tenacious person. Even under the pressure of his uncle, the Celestial Master, he wouldn't change his mind. Unfortunately, as a disciple of an aristocratic family, his loyalty to his family was a principle he had followed since he was young. Now that the Celestial Master of the Han family wasn't in a good situation, his kindness to me wasn't at the level where he would harm his family's benefits. At this moment, he had no choice but to kill me as soon as possible to help his uncle. A tenacious person would go all out once he made a decision. That was why Han Wan-Nan wouldn't hold back at all. The spirit snake, and I found it difficult to fight against Chun Yangting alone. After Han Wan-Nan joined the battle, the situation became extremely bad. Although Professor Liang had an advantage, as long as the Celestial Master of the Han family was willing to delay the battle, Professor Liang's advantage wouldn't be able to turn into a victory. It was impossible for him to defeat the Celestial Master of the Han family and save me. Chapter 305. 10 minutes had passed since Chun Yangting had started. Counting from when Han Wan-an had joined the battle, it had been 9 minutes. At the 5th minute, the snake's spirit collapsed and retracted back into my back. I had to hold on for the next 5 minutes. With my early-stage glory of memory cultivation, I had fought against the late-stage glory of memory and Han Wan-an, who was no weaker than me, for 5 minutes. This was enough to make anyone proud. Even I was in disbelief. However, I couldn't bring myself to be arrogant at all. In fact, I couldn't even form any similar thoughts in my heart. All of my attention was focused on the battle before me. I used every ounce of strength I had to support myself. What had supported me until now wasn't my spirit and willpower. Spirit and willpower were only supplementary powers. When the difference in power reached a certain level, spirit and willpower were just a joke. What had supported me was the 9-star heavenly dipper that I had just comprehended in the yin-yang yama brush. With my current early-stage glory of memory cultivation, the astral steps consumed a lot of energy. Fortunately, I had the thick shaman energy around me to absorb, which was why I could grit my teeth and use it. Although I could only take the first step, the 9-star heavenly dipper was really strong. When I took the first step, it was as if endless shaman energy spread in front of me, forming a thick barrier. Even Shen Yangting's heavenly lightning talisman was only left with a sliver of power after being blocked by this shaman energy barrier. Apart from that, the yin-yang yama brush gave me another surprise. Originally, the yin-yang yama brush had yin and yang energy flowing around it, forming a yin-yang fish to defend against enemies. However, the yin-yang yama brush had changed. After I injected a large amount of shaman energy into it, there were still 2 energies flowing around the brush. However, these 2 energies were no longer yin and yang energy, but Tao energy and shaman energy. In this place, the Tai Sui and the True Dragon veins coexisted with each other. The Taoist Qi and Shaman Qi on the Yin and Yang Yama brush were extremely thick. The Taoist Qi and Shaman Qi on the Yin Yang Yama brush didn't form the Yin and Yang fishes anymore. Instead, they formed 2 simple parallel pillars of Taoist Qi and Shaman Qi, stirring up the 2 auras in the air. They waved like 2 giant whips, and an enormous power poured out, lashing at Han Wan-an and Chen Yangting. Like me, they didn't have any time to breathe. Relying on these 2 items on the surface, I did not seem to be at a disadvantage against the 2 of them. In fact, I was even on the offensive. However, only the 3 of us who were in the battle knew the real situation. Regardless of whether it was the 9 stars, heavenly spirits, or the yin-yang yama brush, they seemed to be borrowing the witchcraft and Taoist Qis from the surroundings, but in essence, they still came from my own strength. Once the witchcraft and Taoist Qis in my body were exhausted, no matter how many witchcraft and Taoist Qis there were, it would be useless against me. At that moment, after persevering for 10 minutes, the witchcraft and Taoist Qis in my body were at the end of their tether. After using the astral steps for the last time, my face paled and I didn't even have the strength to stand. I fell to the ground. At the same time, the witchcraft and Taoist Qis that the yin-yang yama brush had drawn out disappeared. I panted heavily. The last bit of strength in my body had been squeezed out. The only thing that could protect me was the light screen of 9 stars heavenly spirits in front of me. Chen Yangting sneered coldly. He didn't even use his heavenly thunder talisman. He simply raised the peachwood sword in his hand and drew in the air. 3 talismans instantly appeared. Then he pointed the tip of his sword, and 3 illusory talismans attacked at the same time, instantly destroying the last defense in front of me. The power of 9 stars, heavenly spirits, shouldn't be so weak. However, when I used the astral steps, I was already at the end of my tether. Its power couldn't be compared to before. Chen Yangting naturally saw it clearly and didn't need to waste any more strength. After destroying the witchcraft light screen, Chen Yangting held the peachwood sword and walked towards me step by step. Han Wan-an stopped what she was doing and looked at me in a daze for a few seconds. Then, she turned around and left, heading in the direction of the Han family's heavenly master. Looking at Chen Yangting, who was sneering at me, the corners of my mouth curled into a bitter smile. Was this place going to be my burial ground? This thought only flashed in my mind for a moment, because in the vast mountain cave, a Buddhist chant suddenly resounded. Amipa. Following this Buddhist chant, the huge string of Buddhist beads that I had seen yesterday suddenly appeared again. It was as if a meteorite had fallen from sky. It appeared out of nowhere above Chun Yangting's head and fiercely struck him. The sneer at the corners of Chun Yangting's mouth froze. In a hurry, he used the astral steps to take 5 steps and placed a red talisman on the peachwood sword in his hand. He bent his legs and slightly squatted, raising the peachwood sword with both hands. Only then did he receive the Buddhist beads attack. Chun Yangting retreated a few meters in embarrassment. After a trickle of blood trickled down the corner of his mouth, he turned around in shame and anger. Flustered and exasperated, he shouted at Monk Miao Ju, who had suddenly appeared next to us. "You damn baldy! This man is a remnant of the witch tribe. He's the public enemy of our metaphysics world. Everyone wants to kill him on sight. You're the scripture master of the reclining Buddha temple. Are you trying to protect him?" Monk Miao Ju still had that kind and benevolent look on his face. He wasn't anxious or angry. Instead, he faintly said, "This man is fated with Buddha. What Daozhong Chan said is correct. Today, this poor monk is indeed trying to protect him." Chun Yangting didn't expect that Monk Miao Ju would be so shameless. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. At this moment, my mind was in a blur. My face was full of doubts. Monk Miao Ju's power was extraordinary. I could tell that from the day Chun Yangting encountered the evil spirit. However, he had always kept a low profile and didn't show any signs of his presence. It didn't matter if it was during the investigation or the discovery of the true dragon's vein. He didn't show any expression at all. It was as if he didn't care about anything. Why did he suddenly step forward? Moreover, he was the scripture master of the reclining Buddha temple. The reclining Buddha temple was a famous Buddhist temple with a high status in the Buddhist Association. He was a person with a high status in the metaphysics world. Why would he openly protect a remnant of the witch tribe like me? He didn't even hesitate to admit it. I couldn't figure it out no matter how hard I thought about it. However, it wasn't the time to think about it. Monk Miao Ju's action was my chance. I took a deep breath and took out the mysterious liquid I had. I gave a drop to the spirit snake and took a drop myself. Then, I closed my eyes and started to heal my wounds. Han Wennan, who had heard the commotion, turned his head. However, after he understood the situation, he didn't return to fight Monk Miao Ju. Instead, he turned to the Han family's heavenly master, who was fighting with Professor Liang, and said, "Fourth uncle, Miao Ju has taken action. I know I can't defeat him. I can't kill that remnant of the witch tribe. At this time, protecting the true dragon's vein is the most important thing." As soon as he said that, he raised his hand and took out the ball-shaped magical tool. Then he put 2 fingers together and guided the small ball to attack Professor Liang. The Han family's heavenly master didn't say anything. It was obvious that he had also noticed Miao Ju's betrayal, so he tacitly agreed with Han Wennan's decision. Logically speaking, those in the glory of consciousness realm did not have the right to interfere in a battle between heavenly adepts. However, Han Wennan's small ball-shaped artifact was extremely mystical. It floated into the middle of the battle between the 2 of them and did not attack Professor Liang directly. Instead, it stopped above the 2 of them and kept spinning. Half a minute later, a shadow appeared around the rapidly spinning small ball. It looked like a closed eye, that eye was different from a human's. It looked like a frog's eye. It was round and big, and its surface was covered with a layer of dark red, wrinkled eyelids. As the small ball continued to spin, the eyelids slowly opened, revealing a cold and gloomy eyeball. The moment the eyeball was revealed, the temperature in the cave seemed to drop by a few degrees. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but be attracted to it. Although the eyeball wasn't looking at me directly, I didn't know why, but I felt that the eyeball was looking at me from the corner of its eye. I couldn't help but feel a chill in my heart. The shadow's eyeball was facing Professor Liang. A visible gray aura surged out from the pupil of the eyeball and shone directly at Professor Liang. At that moment, Professor Liang's body was covered in a layer of dark red light, which easily blocked all of the Han family's Heavenly Master's attacks. However, when a strange gray aura shone on him, the layer of dark red light was like ice meeting fire. It disappeared directly. At the same time, the gray pillar of air was dyed with a layer of dark red. It seemed that the blood light hadn't disappeared, but had been absorbed by the gray pillar of air. Not only that, but after absorbing the blood light that protected Professor Liang's body, the gray aura shone directly on his body. His skin and flesh melted in large patches, just like the blood light from before. It looked bloody and terrifying. Han Wen'nan's magical tool was beyond my imagination. Although it took a long time to activate, its power was really terrifying. With his glorious knowledge cultivation base, he could hurt the Heavenly Master. If he had to face Professor Liang alone, he would have been killed before he could even attack. However, with the Han family's Heavenly Master restraining him, the power of his magical tool was completely revealed. At this moment, I realized that Han Wen'nan had held back his strength against me. If this terrifying magical ball had such an effect on the Heavenly Master, it would be even more effective against me. If he had used this magical tool at the beginning of his battle with Chen Yangting, I was afraid that I wouldn't have been able to resist. Even if Miao Ju had joined the battle, it was hard to say if he could have done anything to this strange magical ball. The balance of the battle between Professor Liang and the Han family's Heavenly Master seemed to have tilted. I became anxious. If Professor Liang was defeated, the Han family's Heavenly Master would be free, and Miao Ju wouldn't be able to protect me. At this moment, my body had recovered a little under the Xian Yin fluid's nourishment. I gritted my teeth and didn't hesitate anymore. I stood up and said to Miao Ju, "Grandmaster, let's run away first." Before Miao Ju could answer, Professor Liang's voice came from the other side. He laughed and said, "The Han family has such a magical treasure. It's really eye-opening." Instinctively, I turned to look. The blood-red light on Professor Liang's body had disappeared. However, the strange thing was that he didn't dodge the gray aura from the Phantom Eye. He just let it shine on his body. A large amount of flesh and blood disappeared into thin air. Even half of his right shoulder was gone. However, he didn't seem to feel any pain at all. There was even a smile on his face. Countless wrinkles piled together as he continued to laugh. I originally wanted to keep this skin bag, but now it seems that I can't keep it. As soon as he said that, Professor Liang seemed to have lost his skeleton. He swayed and fell to the ground. At the same time, a transparent phantom emerged above his head. Seeing this phantom, the Han family's Heavenly Master, who had been confident about his victory, suddenly paled. He cried out, "Young God!" Not only him, but my face also became tense. This phantom was short and had a long beard. His face was friendly. It was Yin Nantian, the one I had met in the Corpsine sect. Chapter 306. After revealing his true form, Yin Nantian deliberately looked in my direction with a faint smile on his face. His expression was amiable and his smile was pure and kind, but in my eyes his smile was no different from that of an evil spirit. Back in the Corpse sect, he had deceived me with his pure and kind appearance. If it wasn't for the fact that I had the true dragon's vein and threatened him to lure the people of the Corpse sect, not to mention my life, even my soul wouldn't have survived. What was even more frightening was that he wanted to occupy my body and continue living under my name and identity. That was the most frightening thing. Every time I thought about it, I shuddered. Up until now, I still remember the look of him gnashing his teeth as he left, as well as his malicious words. I had once fantasized that Professor Liang was Nangong, so even when I was besieged by Chen Yangting and Han Wen'nan, I still had some hope in my heart. But now I was in complete despair. The spacious cave was filled with enemies. With my strength, even with the help of Monk Miao Ju, it would be an extravagant hope for me to escape. I sat down dejectedly and no longer paid attention to the situation of Professor Liang and the Han family's celestial master. I smiled wryly and said to Monk Miao Ju, "Thank you for your help, but it's a pity that I'm unlucky. Professor Liang is my former enemy. Today, I won't be able to keep my life. I've caused trouble for Master." I didn't know if it was because the people of the Buddhist sect had good self-cultivation skills, but Monk Miao Ju didn't show any signs of panic. He still chanted the name of Buddha and said with a smile, "Buddha has a past, present, and future. To Buddha, witchcraft energy is just Buddhist power. If Benefactor Zhou is free in the future, why don't you pay a visit to the reclining Buddha temple? I'll welcome you with open arms." His words seemed to contain Buddhist principles. I could only roughly understand that he didn't have any hostility towards me, so it wasn't a good time to ask. I shook my head. "Thank you for your kind intentions, but it's a pity that the two celestial masters won't let me leave today. I'm afraid I won't have a chance to go to the reclining Buddha temple." "But Master, you have to hurry and leave before the two celestial masters decide the winner." Monk Miao Ju didn't panic. He clasped his palms together and bowed to me. Then he said with a faint smile, "Benefactor Zhou, you are blessed by the heavens. These tribulations aren't necessarily disasters. I believe that I will be able to reunite with Benefactor at the reclining Buddha temple in the future. Goodbye." After he finished speaking, he glanced at Yin Nantian and the Han family celestial master before walking out of the cave unhurriedly. Just as I had guessed, Yin Nantian and the Han family's heavenly master didn't care about his departure. They only paid attention to each other. I looked over and thought that after Yin Nantian revealed his yang spirit body, there would be a fierce battle. However, after a short stalemate, the Han family's heavenly master suddenly raised his hand and grabbed Han Wenan's small ball. He retreated to Han Wenan's side and said loudly, "Since you have a yang spirit cultivation base, you must not be a nobody. The Han family admits defeat today and is willing to give you this true dragon vein. However, I hope that you can state your identity so that I can explain myself when I return." Yin Nanshan's yang spirit shadow chuckled and said, "Well, there's no harm in telling you. I am, an elder of the Celestial Master Sect's Bo generation. The true dragon vein was first discovered by the Celestial Master Sect. It was unreasonable for the Han family to fight for it. It's naive of you to think that you can escape unscathed." As soon as he finished speaking, his figure disappeared from where he was. The next second, he appeared in front of the Han family's heavenly master. He spat out a blue flame toward the Han family's heavenly master sect's face. The celestial master of the Han family's expression changed drastically in the face of this inconspicuous little flame. He let out a roar and spat out a stream of blood filled with dense chi of the way. After it wrapped around the orchid flame, he did not even dare to look at it. He grabbed Han Wenan, turned into a stream of light, and rushed out of the cave. Yin Nanshan's yang spirit had no intention of chasing after them. After watching them leave, he turned his head with a smile and looked at Chun Yangting. At this moment, only the three of them were left in the cave. Chun Yangting had been seriously injured by Miaojua just now. At this moment, when he saw Yin Nantian looking at him, he hurriedly stood up, cupped his hands in salute, and asked respectfully, "Senior, are you really the Grand Master of Dragon Tiger Mountain?" Yin Nantian didn't answer. He smiled faintly at him, turned his head, and walked back to Professor Liang's corpse. After looking at it for a long time with regret, he turned his head and asked Chun Yangting, who had a perturbed expression, "Do you think I am?" Chun Yangting stammered, "Senior, you definitely won't lie to me. Just now you said you are, so you must be Ha." Yin Nantian laughed again and said unhurriedly, "You're wrong. Just now, I used the name of Dragon Tiger Mountain to make the Han family worry. I have nothing to do with Dragon Tiger Mountain." Chun Yangting's face suddenly changed. He wasn't stupid. At this moment, the Han family celestial master had left, and Yin Nantian was the master of this cave. If Yin Nantian was an elder of Dragon Tiger Mountain, his life would be safe. But if he wasn't, Yin Nantian had enough reasons to kill him, whether it was because of the true dragon vein or because of me. Just as Chun Yangting's face changed, Yin Nantian suddenly bent down and searched Professor Liang's corpse. He took out a thumb-sized black pill and threw it to Chun Yangting. Then he said faintly, "Kid, your aptitude isn't bad. Swallow this pill and stay with me. Although my cultivation isn't as good as Celestial Master Zhang's, I'm in the Yang spirit realm. It won't be an insult to you to accept you as my disciple." Chun Yangting subconsciously grabbed the pill, his face pale. He hesitated for a while, but when he looked up, he seemed to see Yin Nanshan's unhappy face. He didn't dare to think anymore and swallowed the pill. Yin Nantian smiled again and waved his hand, asking him to follow behind him. Then he walked toward me. "We meet again." Yin Nantian stopped in front of me and looked at me condescendingly. At this moment, I'd already realized that I was going to die, so I wasn't scared. I just nodded. "Yes, we meet again. The last time I saw you, you couldn't even deal with me when I was in the acupoint ceiling realm. In the end, you had to run away from the Encorp sect. Now, you're strong enough to defeat the Han family's celestial master. Brother Yin, it seems you've been doing well recently." "Yeah." Yin Nantian nodded. He still had that fake smile on his face. He wasn't angry at my words and just casually said, "Brother Zhou, you haven't been doing well recently. During the time we parted, I didn't ask much about you, but I heard that you were a remnant of the Wu tribe. You were attacked by the 10 celestial masters of the Metaphysics Society. It wasn't easy for you to escape. In the end, the entire Metaphysics Society issued an order to kill you. You're really pitiful." I coldly snorted and didn't say anything else. Yin Nantian seemed to be in a mood to talk. He shook his head and said, "I don't know if Brother Zhou still remembers, but the last time we parted, you told me to pray that the next time I meet you, you haven't reached the Celestial Master Realm. To tell you the truth, I've been praying for half a year. No wonder there's the phrase, if you're sincere, you'll get results. This time, when I meet you, you really haven't reached the Celestial Master Realm." Even though I'd already disregarded life and death, I couldn't help but feel a chill in my heart when I heard his words. When he was forced to leave, he was extremely angry and ferocious. He said, "The next time we meet, not only will I swallow your soul and yang spirit, but I will also swallow your flesh and blood bit by bit." At this moment, he deliberately brought up the conversation at that time. Obviously, he wanted to remind me of his malicious words. I subconsciously raised my head to look at him and couldn't help but shiver. Yin Nantian was an old monster that had been imprisoned in the corpse sect soul-devouring cave for 10 years. His mind must be extremely perverted. Were his words really just a threat? I remained silent and didn't say anything. Yin Nantian suddenly squatted down and reached out to touch my face. He then pinched my arm a few times and said with a satisfied expression, "It's been half a year since I escaped from the corpse sect. During this time, I've been looking for a physical body. However, after observing so many so-called young geniuses in terms of talent, you're still the most suitable for me." Chapter 307. I felt a chill in my heart as I thought of Ufuda and the half-bowl of minced meat in that case. Just hearing about cannibalism was enough to make my hair stand on end, let alone having it happen to me. My face paled and I clenched my teeth, unable to speak. Yin Nantian stood up and sighed. He said with a regretful expression, "It's a pity that your body is still useful to me. I can't bear to eat it. Get up. Don't sit there and pretend to be dead. Go to the Tai Sui's feet and quickly absorb the shaman energy. This is a rare opportunity." His words stunned me. I immediately remembered that I was currently cultivating shaman energy. If Yin Nantian really treated me as his body, wouldn't I have to cultivate shaman energy as well? Yin Nantian had told me about the corpse sect's life-extending technique in detail. After completing this life-extending technique, the power of both sides would fuse together and the cultivation talent would be the same as that of the person being swallowed. I stood up and walked towards the Tai Sui as I asked Yin Nantian, "I'm currently a remnant of the witch race that everyone wants to beat up. I also cultivate shaman energy. If you use me as your physical body, are you going to switch to cultivating shaman energy?" Yin Nantian chuckled as if he didn't care about my words. He said, "Brat, I've been hiding my entire life in the corpse sect. I'm not much better than you, a member of the witch tribe that everyone wants to kill. You don't have to worry that I won't be able to adapt to your identity. As for cultivating sorcery chi, I was able to cultivate to the Anshan phase, so I'm not too close to the Tao. Although I haven't reached the peak, I can feel that if I want to pursue the Great Way, the Tao is not a shortcut. Maybe it's good to try sorcery chi. Moreover, look at the heavenly Tao's corpse." "What heavenly Tao's corpse?" "You're used to it. Look at the Tai Sui. Half of its body has turned into a true dragon vein. Don't you think it's strange?" My heart shook and I stopped. Previously, no matter if it was Chen Yangting or Han Wenan, they had thought that this was a true dragon vein transforming into a human. Only I had thought that this was the Tai Sui transforming into a true dragon vein from the soft tubes that had absorbed the true dragon saliva and transported it here. I hadn't been too sure, but for what Yin Nantian had said, he also knew that this was the Tai Sui transforming into a true dragon vein. I hid my surprise and nodded. "Of course it's strange." "Yeah." Yin Nantian seemed to be emotional. He didn't pay attention to me at all. His eyes were fixed on the Tai Sui and the true dragon vein. After a moment of silence, he spoke again. "I've heard of the battle between witchcraft and Taoism, but I've never thought about it in detail. Only when I reached the Heaven's Master Realm did I understand some of the reasons. Witchcraft and Taoism are just about luck, but is Taoism really Taoism? The winner takes all. I don't know who's closer to the Grand Tao, but I know that the foundation of the Tao, the true dragon vein, is formed from the Tai Sui fungus, just like this incomplete product before me." What? I was dumbfounded. I couldn't hide my astonishment anymore. Yin Nantian was saying that all the true dragon veins were created by the Tai Sui? How is this possible? Subconsciously, I retorted, "That's impossible. The Tai Sui is born from the 4 remnant stars. There are only 4 of them in the world. I don't know how many true dragon veins there are, but there are definitely more than 4. For example, the Tai Sui in front of me is just a true dragon vein. That's impossible." Yin Nantian wasn't in a hurry to refute my words. He just stood there and chuckled. After a while, he suddenly asked me, "Why do you think the corpse sect calls the Tai Sui the heavenly Tao corpse?" I was stunned as I didn't know what he meant. Yin Nantian didn't wait for my reply and immediately said, "To be precise, the corpse sect calls the Tai Sui the heavenly Tao corpse. As for the Tai Sui, according to the corpse sect, it's the heavenly Tao. You're right. There are only 4 Tai Sui, and they are born from the 4 remnant stars. However, there are far more than 4 Tai Sui corpses. Since ancient times, the 7 glorious stars have always hung in the sky, but the 4 remnant stars have always alternated. Every time they appear, they are actually different. Every new remnant star will give birth to a new Tai Sui. Correspondingly, the old Tai Sui will grow old. Just take the last solar eclipse, when you were besieged by the 10 heavenly masters of the Metaphysics Society. When the Luo Ho star appeared, one of the Tai Sui would grow old, and at the same time, another Tai Sui would be born." I was silent. Yin Nantian was a heavenly master. His knowledge in many aspects couldn't be compared to mine. He shouldn't be lying to me. In fact, I had my suspicions before. If there were only 4 Tai Sui in the world, how could I obtain information about 3 of them in just 1 or 2 years? No, to be precise, including the one in front of me, there were already 4 Tai Sui. If it was really as I thought, then I had already seen all 4 Tai Sui in the world. This was simply ridiculous. After being silent for a while, Yin Nantian finally spoke again. His voice didn't have the melancholy from before. He returned to his usual hypocritical and cunning tone. He smiled and said, "When the Luo Ho star invades the sun and the Tai Sui is born, there will be a great calamity in the world. I don't know what kind of calamity the Luo Ho star will bring. Let's not talk about this. Go and cultivate. I still have things to do." After saying that, he prepared to turn and leave. At that moment, I was confused. I couldn't care less about our identities as enemies. I quickly called out to him and asked anxiously, "You said that the true dragon veins are formed from the Tai Sui. I still think that it's impossible. If that's the case, cultivators should cultivate shaman qi. Why would they give up what's close at hand and seek the Tao qi? Yanantian chuckled, but he wasn't angry. This person was hypocritical to his bones. When he wasn't shedding all pretense of cordiality with you, he was always smiling and polite. When he heard what I said, he stopped and smiled. You're right. At first, I also had my suspicions. But later on, I thought it through. Let me give you a hint. Putting aside the true dragon veins, are there other sources of Tao Qi? Think about this question and think about what I said just now. The 7 stars hang forever in the sky, and the 4 stars replace each other. Do you understand now? I thought for a while, but I was still confused. Just as I was about to ask again, a flash of light suddenly flashed across my mind. I cried out involuntarily. The Tao Qi comes from the 7 glorious stars. The 7 glorious suns shine on the world. In the beginning, the Tao Qi is abundant, even more than the shaman qi. However, lifespan is limited and it will gradually disappear. The 4 remnant stars will replace each other, and the Tai Sui will eventually grow old. Although Yin Nantian was a sun god shadow, he chuckled when he heard what I said. He stretched his hand to stroke his beard and praised. Not bad. You're still so smart. I didn't care about his praise at all. My head was buzzing. Ever since the Metaphysics Association had identified me as a remnant of the witch tribe, I had been very confused. I didn't understand many things. Who would have thought that today, when I was in danger, Yanantian would answer all of my questions? Now, I completely understood. What Tao Qi and Shaman Qi? It was just what Yanantian had said. In ancient times, the 7 stars were powerful and covered the world. Because of that, Tao Qi was the main power. The 4 stars appeared once every few years and couldn't compare to the 7 stars. Hence, Shaman Qi was much weaker. Naturally, Tao Qi dominated the world. Maybe back then, the witchcraft and Shaman Qi didn't fight against each other and everyone just walked their own paths. However, as time passed, the 7 stars gradually weakened and dissipated. Tao Qi weakened, but Shaman Qi was still abundant. Thus, the power gradually shifted. According to this trend, the witch tribe was bound to rise. However, at that time, someone found a way to transform the Tai Sui's corpse into the true dragon veins. As a result, the cultivators saw hope. Although the Qi of the Way was thin and the sorcery Qi was flourishing, the Qi of the Way was the mainstream in the past. The number of people who cultivated in Taoism was much more than those who cultivated in sorcery Qi. No one was willing to watch helplessly as they walked towards destruction. Hence, after this method appeared, the battle of sorcery Tao appeared. I could imagine that the shaman tribe had no power to fight back in this war. Their time had just arrived, and before they could even develop, they were all destroyed. All the corpses of the Tai Sui were found and refined into true dragon veins. Hence, the order of the world didn't change. Tao Qi was still the main power, and Shaman Qi was still at the periphery. The only thing that changed was that the witch tribe was almost extinct. As for Shaman Qi, without the corpses of the Tai Sui, it was even thinner than in ancient times. Other than when the 4 stars changed, there would be no Shaman Qi in the world at other times. Chapter 308. I lifted my head to look at the Tai Sui and the true dragon vein. I recalled the countless terracotta figures in the cave and the soft tubes that had absorbed the witchcraft energy and turned it into true dragon saliva. I thought for a while and asked Yanantian, so the bloody sacrificial ceremony of the Shang dynasty that you mentioned was the way to turn the Tai Sui into the true dragon vein? Yanantian nodded. That's right. The sacrificial ceremony was one of the methods. I didn't know about this before, but while my Yang spirit was staying in Professor Liang's body, I studied the Shang culture. That's how I figured it out. The Shang dynasty was a kingdom of theocracy. The entire history of the Shang dynasty was a bloody, sacrificial ceremony. Combined with the battle of witchcraft, it should be during that period that all the Tai Sui's corpses were turned into the true dragon veins. I was stunned by the series of truths. I kept silent and didn't say anything. I suddenly thought of the Shang dynasty's totem. The mystic bird was born in the Shang dynasty. Yin Nantian said that the Shang dynasty was a kingdom of theocracy, and their totem was the mystic bird. It proved that the mystic bird was very important to the Shang dynasty. But the mystic bird was the body of the Jiutian Xianen V, and the Jiutian Xianen V was the ancestor of metaphysics. I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't want to find out. I walked to the foot of the giant Tai Sui's corpse and sat down, ready to absorb the witchcraft energy. When Yin Nantian saw this scene, he nodded in satisfaction. He chuckled and said, "So now you understand why I chose Sorcerer Qi. Everyone is holding fast to Tao Qi. Even though in the past hundreds and thousands of years, there have not been many people who have relied on Tao Qi to pluck the stars. But they're still holding on, thinking that this is their Tao. But in fact, everything has its rules. The Taoist Qi obtained from the Tai Sui's corpse is essentially witchcraft energy. In the metaphysics world, there hasn't been anyone who has ascended in the past 1,000 years. Haha, if the Taoist Qi can open the door to the great path, maybe witchcraft energy can? Kid, work harder on your cultivation. Imagine if I use your body to have the chance to open the door to the great path. Wouldn't you be proud to?" I sat down cross-legged and started to absorb the Taoist Qi. But when I heard Yin Nantian's words, I was dispirited. If it was in the past, I would have been overjoyed to get such a good opportunity and would have absorbed as much shaman energy as I could. But now, no matter how much I absorbed, what use would it be? Wouldn't I just be helping someone else? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but slow down my absorption speed. I tossed all the shock and the truth aside. What was the use of knowing that? It was more important to think about my current predicament. If given a choice, no one would want to die. How could I escape from this predicament? When I was threatened by the Han family celestial master, I thought about using the power of the Tai Sui to escape after entering the cave. Unfortunately, the Tai Sui in front of me was only the corpse of the Tai Sui. If the Tai Sui was a living creature like Xiao Jin, I might be able to use it. However, speaking of Xiao Jin, I suddenly remembered that Xiao Jin's half-month transformation period was about to come. Since I was currently trapped here, I couldn't take care of him. At that time, Xiao Jin would transform in the downtown area, which would cause a huge commotion. The people of the metaphysics world would be attracted. From what Yin Nantian had told me, Xiao Jin wouldn't be able to escape this time. While I was feeling sad, Yin Nantian's voice suddenly came to my ears. What a pity! What a pity! I wasn't concentrating on absorbing the witchcraft energy, so I opened my eyes. Yin Nantian had said that he had something to do, but he hadn't left yet. He was still standing not far from me, looking at the giant Tai Sui's corpse in the air. I didn't know why he was sighing, and I didn't have the mood to ask. However, he quickly took the initiative and said, "It's a pity that half of the Tai Sui's corpse has turned into a true dragon vein. Otherwise, my yang spirit could reside in it and comprehend the source of witchcraft energy. Wouldn't that be great?" After that, he seemed to see me open my eyes. He looked down at me, then pointed at the Tai Sui's body and said to me, "When I take your body, according to the method of the Corpsine sect, you need to refine it into a corpse puppet first. If the Tai Sui's body is complete and my yang spirit resides in it, you could try to refine the Tai Sui's body into a corpse puppet." Haha, just think about it. Isn't it very tempting? TSK, TSK. The corpse sect has been around for thousands of years. Why didn't anyone think of this? If the Tai Sui is used as a corpse puppet, how powerful would it be? A heavenly master's corpse puppet is nothing. I looked at Yin Nantian with a strange face. Although he was my archenemy, I had the same thought as him at this moment. Using the Tai Sui as a corpse puppet was something I had thought about before. I had done it, and I had succeeded. If Yin Nantian knew about it, would he feel the same way? Thinking about this, I suddenly remembered what he had said before. The Tai Sui's corpse was the heavenly Tao's corpse, but Xiao Jin was a living Tai Sui. Why did I refine him into a corpse puppet? After thinking for a long time, I couldn't figure it out. I grinned. The Tai Sui's corpse was strange. If I had succeeded by accident, there must be a reason behind it. I didn't think about it or talk anymore. I closed my eyes and started to absorb the witchcraft energy again. However, as soon as I closed my eyes, something flashed in my head. Wait a minute. Corpse puppet. Yin Nantian wanted to use the corpse sex secret technique to steal my soul and body. That was why he needed a corpse to live in and let me refine it into a corpse puppet. That way, he could use the corpse sex secret technique. Once I succeeded in refining the corpse puppet, Yin Nantian and I would have a contract. From then on, I would be under his control until he swallowed my soul and yang spirit to occupy my body. But the problem was that I already had a corpse puppet. I had seen the corpse sex technique. Each person could only have one corpse puppet, and they couldn't change it. If Yin Nantian wanted my body, he would have to occupy Xiao Jin's body. However, Xiao Jin wasn't a corpse. He was a living creature. Would he be willing to be occupied by Yin Nantian? Moreover, Xiao Jin's transformation period was coming every half a month, and it was tomorrow night. If Yin Nantian chose that time, what would the result be? Yin Nantian had just said that the power of the Tai Sui was much stronger than that of the Heavenly Master. In fact, I didn't need him to tell me that. If everything developed according to my plan, when Xiao Jin transformed, Yin Nantian, would he be slapped to death by Xiao Jin? No, Yin Nantian had died a long time ago. This was just his yang spirit. It would be easier for Xiao Jin to smash his yang spirit, right? At that moment, my eyes brightened. I didn't feel disappointed anymore. I lifted my head to look at Yin Nantian, who had turned around and left. The corners of my mouth rose. I slowly closed my eyes and continued to absorb the witchcraft energy. This time, I put in a lot of effort. I didn't want to dawdle anymore. Yin Nantian was right. This was a rare opportunity. I focused on absorbing the witchcraft energy. I ignored everything around me and focused on the witchcraft energy source stone in my body. The witchcraft energy next to the Tai Sui's corpse was much thicker than I had imagined. I had absorbed enough witchcraft energy in the tunnel outside, allowing my witchcraft energy source stone to split into two. At Glorious Memory 2-star realm, I thought that no matter how much witchcraft energy I had, I wouldn't be able to increase my realm. However, I didn't expect that after absorbing for a short while, the original witchcraft energy star at the bottom of the vein of the sky started to swell again. It quickly reached the critical point of splitting. This time, it was highly likely that I would be able to escape alive. I had long since thrown away the thought of making a wedding dress for someone else. Therefore, I was very excited and continued to absorb the star power. After an unknown period of time, the original power star finally expanded to the size of a walnut and started to shake slightly. With my previous experience, I understood that this was a sign that the witchcraft energy source stone was about to split. If the split succeeded, I would be at Glorious Memory 3-star realm. At the same time, I would officially advance to the middle stage of Glorious Memory. Yi Pianpian and Zhang Canwen were only at the middle stage of Glorious Memory. If I succeeded, my power would be on par with them. How long had it been? I thought back to when I had fought alongside the two of them. I had always been envious. I didn't expect that I would have power on par with them so quickly. Chapter 309. After the middle part caved in, the Shaman Chi origin stone officially started to split. The shaman energy around me was like the last time I advanced. It became violent again and turned into a hurricane that surged into my body. I didn't care about that and focused all my power on the Shaman Chi origin stone. I used all the shaman energy in my body to pull on the Shaman Chi origin stone. However, this time, the splitting of the Shaman Chi origin stone seemed to be in trouble and wasn't as smooth as the last time. The last time it split, I didn't even need to do anything. The shaman energy that surged in from the surroundings was enough to support it. The splitting speed was also extremely fast, and I succeeded not long after. However, this time, the shaman energy that surged in from the surroundings was even more than the last time. However, the splitting speed of the Shaman Chi origin stone wasn't even 1/10 of the previous time. The middle part of the shaman chi origin stone caved in really slowly. After a long while, there were only 2 small indentations. I understood that this was most likely due to my 2 consecutive breakthroughs in a short period of time. Everything in the world had its principles, and cultivation had to be done step by step. Although it was everyone's dream to continuously increase their realms in a short period of time, the risks that came with it were unavoidable. Moreover, advancing from 1 star to 2 stars of glorious knowledge was just a small realm increase. Advancing from 2 stars to 3 stars was a huge realm, and the difficulty was incomparable. I wasn't in a hurry and used my fastest speed to absorb the shaman energy. At the same time, I controlled the other shaman energy star to slowly move closer to the original star. This shaman energy star was the one that had split when I advanced to the 2nd star of glorious knowledge. Back then, it was only the size of a thumb. However, after absorbing a sufficient amount of shaman energy, it was now the size of a walnut. After I controlled it to come into contact with the original star, I infused the surging shaman energy within it into the original star. With the addition of the shaman energy, the original star's power instantly increased. Gradually, the depression became deeper, and the shaman chi origin stone slowly turned into the shape of a gourd. At that moment, the other shaman energy star returned to the size of a thumb. The shaman energy and it was almost used up, and it retreated to the side. However, the shaman energy surrounding my body was still very thick. I quickly replenished it and then infused the shaman energy into the original star again. This time, the original star's requirement for shaman energy was finally satisfied. The gourd-shaped depression became deeper and deeper. Then, it suddenly broke free and officially split into 2. In addition to the small ball that I had split off earlier, I now had a total of 3 stars of shaman chi in my body. I had officially reached the 3-star glorious knowledge realm. After my realm had increased, I didn't stop. The 3 stars that had been split into 3 were currently very weak and needed a large amount of shaman energy to replenish themselves. I gradually slowed down the speed at which I absorbed the shaman energy, but didn't stop. I steadily replenished the 3 stars required shaman energy. These 3 stars continued to absorb sorcery energy, and after an unknown period of time, they finally grew to the size of walnuts. Based on my previous experience, the size of a walnut was the limit of a shaman star. Next, it will be time for the shaman star to split and increase its power. In reality, the 3 shaman chi source stones stopped growing, and the shaman chi that I absorbed into my body couldn't stay in them. But this time, no matter how much I tried to stimulate them with the shaman chi I absorbed, the shaman star didn't move. After trying many times, I still didn't succeed, so I could only give up. I understood in my heart that I had already reached my limit in absorbing the shaman aura this time. I wouldn't be able to increase my realm again within a short period of time. I could only first digest the increase in my realm this time before I could increase my realm again. Cultivation realms were always related to one's state of mind. If one state of mind couldn't reach a certain level, one's realm couldn't increase. Although I hadn't been troubled in this aspect, I understood this principle. Thus, I didn't force myself. I stopped absorbing the shaman chi and slowly opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I didn't see anyone. Yin Nantian and Chun Yangting had gone far away. However, I didn't think that Yin Nantian would leave me alone. He had said that he had something else to do, so he must be somewhere else in the cave, doing something. There were no other exits in the cave, so it was impossible for me to escape. I didn't mind it too much. I stood up and lifted my head to look at the Tai Sui's corpse next to me. I had absorbed a lot of shaman energy, and my realm had increased by 1 realm, but the Tai Sui's corpse didn't reduce at all. From this, I could see how strong the Tai Sui was. It was thousands of times stronger than the amount of shaman energy in my body. When Xiao Jin had transformed, the shaman chi on his body wasn't weaker than the Tai Sui's corpse. It wouldn't have taken him much effort to smash Yin Nanshan's yang spirit. I chuckled. I was in a good mood. I walked to the entrance of the cave to look for Yin Nantian. After walking for 7 or 8 minutes, I finally heard some voices in front of me. I took a few steps forward and looked. It was Yin Nantian and Qin Yangting. They held a searchlight in one hand and a bundle of golden ropes in the other. With every step they took, they would take out a golden rope and tie it around the necks of the terracotta figures on the mountain wall. I didn't understand what they were doing, so I walked forward. Yin Nantian heard me and lifted his head to look. He smiled and said, "Have you cultivated to your limit?" I pretended to accept my fate. My face darkened as I said, "I can't absorb any more shaman chi when I reach the third star of glorious knowledge." Hearing that, Qin Yangting lifted his head to look at me. He looked shocked and envious at the same time. One would only know how difficult and dangerous something was after experiencing it. Qin Yangting was in the later stages of glory of memory, so he naturally had a deep understanding of the increase in glory of memory realm. That was why he was shocked that my realm rose again and again in such a short time. Yin Nantian smiled and nodded. He took out half of the golden rope and tossed it to me. "Not bad. Since you can't absorb any more shaman chi, help me tie the ropes." The method is simple. Just tie the ropes around the terracotta figures. I extended my hand to catch the rope and imitated their movements. After tying a few ropes, I asked Yin Nantian in confusion, "Why are you tying these ropes? There are so many terracotta figures behind. Did you tie all of them?" Yin Nantian walked in front of me and replied without turning his head, "Of course it's useful. Time is of the essence. The Han family celestial master has retreated due to his injuries, and I used the celestial master's sex name to suppress him. However, it's hard to guarantee that he won't report this matter to the Metaphysics Association. Then, the Metaphysics Association will argue with the Celestial Master sect. If the Celestial Master sect receives the news, they will definitely rush over. At that time, our lives will be in danger. Hurry up and tie the ropes. We'll leave after we're done with this matter." As he said that, his hands didn't stop and he continued to tie the ropes. Due to his speed, some of the ropes were only tied around the terracotta figures. Yin Nantian didn't mind as he reckoned that it was effective. If I hadn't thought of a solution earlier, I might have purposely dragged the time and waited for the people from the Metaphysics Association and the Celestial Master sect to come. At that time, I wouldn't let him have an easy time even if I couldn't survive. However, I obviously didn't have such thoughts at this moment. I only smiled and imitated him, quickly tying the ropes around the terracotta figures. With my help, the efficiency of the work had increased by a lot. In less than 10 minutes, we had tied all the terracotta figures with ropes and returned to the cave. Yin Nantian was in a good mood. He laughed and threw the remaining ropes aside. Then he walked to Professor Liang's corpse and stooped to take out a cloth bag from his chest pocket. Then he led us to the Tai Sui's corpse. I didn't know why, but I didn't ask. Qin Yangting and I followed behind him. When Yin Nantian arrived beside the Tai Sui corpse, he did not stop. Instead, he turned around and walked to the side of the mountain wall. He stomped on the ground with the tip of his foot and soared into the air. He leaped more than 30 meters up and landed on the mountain wall beside the large clump of true dragon saliva. There was a platform there. It didn't look big, but after Yin Nantian jumped up, I noticed that it wasn't small. I guess it could hold around 10 people. Did he want to take the true dragon saliva? I didn't have time to think. Yin Nantian raised his hand and beckoned Qin Yangting and me to go up. We didn't have his ability, so we couldn't jump directly. We could only use our hands to climb up the mountain wall. However, we were at the glorious memory realm, so our bodies weren't ordinary people's. It didn't take much effort for us to climb up. When we reached the platform, I realized that Yin Nantian's target wasn't the true dragon saliva. He was aiming for the soft tube protruding from the mountain wall next to the true dragon saliva. His eyes greedily looked at the soft tube. He opened the cloth bag in his hand and took out the things inside, placing them next to the thick soft tube. I checked the things he had taken out. There were some unknown fungi and some big obsidian stones with different colors. They had all 5 elements. Finally, there were some live baby mice. They had red skin, and their eyes hadn't opened yet. I didn't know what he had done to keep these baby mice alive until now. At this moment, Qin Yangting couldn't help but feel suspicious. He asked Yin Nantian, "Master, what is this soft tube?" This fellow was really shameless. He even called me master. Yin Nantian straightened his body and smiled while stroking his beard. He answered, "This isn't a thing. It's an ancient beast." Beast? Could this thing really be a living thing? I was instantly interested. I raised my eyes to look at the soft tube. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.